Did he forget?
It's all text now. You get emailed a schedule and you get texted, right?
Right.
But I'm on there. I think half of it's my number and my email, so he might be second. I don't know.
So he really didn't know he was on.
He didn't know because he loves doing it. He thought it was just Friday, not Tuesday and Friday. So that was like.
So who's gonna
He's running down there. Amber was close to home.
Was she cussing one of you?
Both of us. We're both getting
As
close.
it should be. Nick, are you gonna sit by me at these meetings?
I think so.
Wow, I can throw my papers at you?
Have to be on camera though.
Oh, that's crazy. It's crazy or something.
Let's hope so, huh?
If you're not, I'm not.
See on consent items?
You're doing
Pledge. I mean, he has the prayer. Right?
What?
Are you on prayer?
Yes.
Mike,
Is there an order?
No, not for mine. There's only one of like that tractor. That one's kind of that's across the street from the other three. Or two, whatever it is.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We welcome everyone that's here in the chambers and all those in TV land. I've asked Councilman Argyle to give us a prayer.
Our dear Father in heaven, we humbly bow our heads before Thee as the beginning of this city council meeting here in Spanish Fork. We invite Thy Spirit to be here as we discuss the needs of this city, that we may do so in a pleasing manner to each other and representing the citizens of this community. We are so grateful for this great town and the citizens that live here, and the opportunity that we have to live and raise our families in this great community. We ask to watch over our families as we're away. Watch over this community, keep it safe, and help us to make those decisions that are best for this community as we go forward. And we ask and say these things in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. I've asked Councilman Gordon to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Will the audience please rise? Please repeat the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Okay, let's go into public comments. Anyone here, I know we have a agenda request for a public comment. We'll wait and let everybody else first. Anyone that'd like to come and address the mayor and the council, come on up. Okay, seeing none, then Becky, we'll let you come on up.
Thank you. I am here tonight to ask the council.
Would you state your name?
Sure.
Thank you.
It's Becky Ainge Nepper. I usually don't use that Ainge, but, you know, just if it has any pull. I'm here to ask the council's assistance in having a memorial to honor women veterans placed somewhere in the city, somewhere with visibility, so that people can be reminded that women too are veterans and have served. I served 27 years in the Army, and while I was in the Army, I had the privilege of going to the dedication of the Women in Military Service for America Memorial in Arlington Cemetery. And at that memorial, a 101-year-old woman who was in the Navy in World War I spoke to us. And in part of her speech, she said, "When I enlisted, I didn't have the right to vote." And that has just stuck with me and kind of been the soapbox that I'm on. I just marvel at how much patriotism and love for country it takes to volunteer to serve a country that won't even afford you that basic right. 30 years later, women were actually given some of the same benefits as men when they served. Up until that point, they couldn't make a career out of the military. If they got married, they had to get out of the military. They didn't have the same burial rights. And so those women who served during World War I and World War II are just heroes of mine. And I have a quote from a nurse from World War II. She said, "Let the generations know that women in uniform also guaranteed their freedom, that our resolve was just as brave, as the men who stand among us, and with victory our hearts beat just as fast, and we're just as full, and that our cheers fell just as hard for the men left behind." While women at that time were not on the battlefront, they still provided a special support to the war cause. During World War II, men were not getting their mail because the men were on the front lines. So they activated the 6th 888 Postal Battalion, which went to a warehouse full of letters and packages. These were all African-American women in this battalion, and distributed that mail, which greatly improved the morale of those fighting soldiers. So even though they weren't fighting on the battlefront, they were providing a valuable support to the war effort. But oftentimes, when we think of a veteran, we think of the man with the World War II baseball cap or Vietnam War baseball cap. Partly it's women's fault because we don't wear those caps normally. So when we think of women veterans, we don't automatically think of Becky Ainge Nepper. But in Spanish Fork alone, we have somewhere between 14 and 21 women's names on our Veterans Memorial Wall. We also have a 99-year-old woman, Frances Moore, who served in World War II in the Navy, who's still living here in town. She needs to be honored. We have 89-year-old Loretta Johnson Duncan, who served during the Korean War, who grew up in Spanish Fork. She'll be buried in Provo next to her husband, so she won't be on our memorial wall. She needs to be honored. I know of at least 15 other women who, and that's just off the top of my head, who have served, who are from Spanish Fork, and they may or may not be buried here, but they need to be honored. But we are sometimes forgotten. I was looking at a video that was done by Conrad Video Works called Spanish Fork Hometown USA, and it's got an aerial view of our wonderful landmarks, but when it gets to the Veterans Memorial, there are 5 branches of service that are represented there, but they only show 4 of them. And the Coast Guard, which has the woman statue, is the one they left out. I don't think that was on purpose, but it just kind of proves my point that we as women veterans are oftentimes forgotten. So I want a memorial that will help people remember that, and I want it in a visible place where it can be seen. The Veterans Memorial has been suggested, but that's only really seen on Memorial Day. You don't see a lot of people there throughout the rest of the year. And I think it's important that it's in a visible place where people can be reminded and realize that women have fought for our country now. 2% of the amputees from the Iraqi and Afghan wars are amputees, female amputees. You know, they've given a part of themselves to secure our freedom and the freedom of others in the world. So with that, I'm asking for your consideration and your support. And I've thought of a lot of places. I thought of the Rose Garden, which I've been given reasons why that's a bad idea. And in retrospect, with the new library, and I'm not sure what may or may not happen with the park, I don't know. Maybe that's not such a good place, but I'm thinking maybe our Memorial Park would be the place to put it, because it's a memorial, and that's a memorial park, and it has visibility. So that's my pitch. Not sure what I'm supposed to do from here. Answer questions, I guess, I don't know, but I thank you for listening, and
Thank you.
want to thank you for your support.
I think what we'll do is we'll take that, what you've asked, and let's see what we can come up with some ideas. We'll work with Dell and as our Parks and Rec, and get some ideas and see, probably can't reach out and contact you to get some input from you, and then let's see what would work, you know, if there's some place that's appropriate for that.
Appreciate that.
You bet.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Becky.
Okay, council comments. Councilman Gordon.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you again, Becky. We really appreciate you being here, and thank you for your service. Wanted to just give a quick update on the cleanup, the dumpsters that are around town. We've had 102 drop and picks. What that means is the dumpsters have been emptied 102 times. That's 247.8 tons of garbage that has been removed from people's homes. And so I talked to one of the transfer station workers who goes twice a day with the loader to compact it down, the dumpsters. And so everyone knows we did it last year, and so that's why we decided to do it again this year, because it's wildly successful, and it's a great program because it's getting people to clean up unwanted junk and do a lot of landscaping things, and saves people from being in a long line on Saturdays if you've had to be down to the transfer station. And so it's been going very well. And so Saturday will be the last day. It's obviously only a couple of weeks that we do it for, because there is quite a cost, as you can imagine, that it is costing to do that. But anyway, just appreciate everyone's use of the program so we can keep it going in respect of others. The only thing that has been left next to a dumpster is a barbecuer that one of the workers said that they probably couldn't lift up in, so he used the loader to put it in. And so that's really good to hear, that people aren't, making a landfill out of the sites, which is really good. So the other thing I needed to just report on, we had a Mount Nebo water meeting Monday morning. Yesterday morning, we approved a Water Smart grant for a grant application, and discuss the future, more future ideas of Utah Lake, really. And so I don't have anything other than that to report, Mayor.
Great. Councilman Mendenhall.
Thank you, Mayor. And yeah, I echo what Brandon said. Thank you, Becky, for your service, and thanks for coming before us. Luckily, I count myself lucky that we got Councilman Scopes serving in the military here for many years, and serves on our city council to defer to people much smarter and better equipped than me to talk about these things. So I'm thankful that something like that could come before us and get figured out. The only item that I have, we had a Parks and Rec meeting yesterday with the Parks and Rec Committee, volunteers in our city that meet at least every month with Dale and staff and myself, and get updated on the great quality of life that is Parks and Rec in Spanish Fork. And I always remind them and many people in the city that, the quality of life issue like our Parks and Rec is what you see when somebody has to sell their house in Spanish Fork, right? It's they don't put that, hey, the toilet's flushed, the lights turn on, and the trash is picked up, which are essential services of local government. But it seems like stuff that really makes a difference is how close they are to a park, or how close they are to a trail, or those quality of life things that we really exceed at and are important for us and our community. So thanks again to our Parks and Rec Committee that give of their time to discuss those important things and where we move as a city from there. I'm excited for the master plan of our Parks and Rec department that give us a vision document, because we're the fastest growing state in the nation, and we're one of the fastest growing cities in the nation. So to keep up with that stuff is definitely, you're behind the eight ball if you're not trying to plan for that. So thanks again for all their time. I sent Nick a couple of pictures of a few Parks and Rec things that happened up in my neighborhood when I was like on my 7th or 8th mile running in the morning. I can't remember what it was.
Liar.
7/8 of a mile?
Yeah, maybe 7/8. And maybe it was a walk, maybe it wasn't a run.
But this, in conjunction with Chris's department, with the Parks and Rec department and the Rotary Club of Spanish Fork, is how they spent one of their Saturdays taking care of a part of a street that is just a park strip that's kind of weird and was run down by Sierra Park, which is used heavily in the east side of town for soccer games and everything. So just kudos to the volunteers, the Rotary Department, or excuse me, the Rotary Club, our Parks and Rec, and Chris's department for making just that much more beautiful of an area up there by Sierra Park. And then this doesn't look like much. I know this at first glance, this doesn't look like much. This is huge. This is big. This is big news. This is a gate, again, and this is your community in actions. Sometimes it's just simple things like this that make all the difference in the world. But this is a gate installed between Sierra Bonita Elementary School and Sierra Park, where any given, geez, what nights are those two? Wednesdays and Friday nights maybe, that those soccer fields are just chock full of people and kids and cars figuring out where to park. But that gate installed, the request of citizenry and the idea of some residents up there to say, hey, the school's not in session when we're doing soccer games over here, and the reason why people don't park is because they would have to walk clear around that gate to get to the soccer games, or clear around that fence. And when you got 5 kids in tow or something trying to watch the soccer game, that's
You're tired because you ran 7.
I've already been 7/8 of a mile, and so I won't do it. But no, this cut down on cars parking in our streets and in the area of the neighborhood and stuff, because a lot of the cars park there now and use that and walk through that gate. So thanks again to the Parks and Rec being responsive to the citizens, and thanks for the citizens being involved. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Did you say 7 or 8 miles? I heard that right?
I said 7 or 8. Kira corrected me, said 7/8 of a mile, which is probably what around the park is, and that's all I did.
And I question that.
And I might have rode a scooter for half that, I don't know.
Councilman Scobes.
Mayor, I don't have anything to report at this time.
All right. Councilmember Beck.
Okay, I have a couple things just as a reminder that the Miss Spanish Fork pageant will be held at Spanish Fork High School on Saturday, May 29th. And there will be 7 young women this year vying for that title, for that scholarship. And I wanted to invite the city council to attend the Tabitha's Way Read and Feed event on Saturday, May 15th, and it will be held at the indoor tennis courts. And Tabitha's Way is giving back to those children and youth with food insecurities in Nebo School District. They can, during the school year, they're taken care of through the school and have a lot more access to places to find food. So Tabitha's Way wants to educate the parents where they can get food throughout those summer months. And also, Tabitha's Way has found that those are also the youth that do not have books in their home. So many of the schools in the school district have been gathering books along with our local libraries, and they will be handing out 10 books to all of the kids that come that day with their parents. So whoever up here can come and help manage that, we would love to have you. And then last night we had our Fiesta Days meeting. 2 things that I wanted to just let you know about. The pyro musical that everybody loves so much has been handed off to the city. So the group that has done that for the last several years that would get the sponsorships and hold that, that's the fireworks show that actually the week before Fiesta Days, everybody loves it. Now it's in the city's hands. We need sponsorships. So any businesses, groups, families, kids that are interested in sponsoring, just giving $1 to thousands of dollars if you're a business to the Pyro Musical, you can actually just get on the city's website, go to the Fiesta Days calendar, click on the Pyro Musical, which will be Friday night the 16th. And there is a jot form there where you can sign up to donate money. We need to raise enough money to be able to fund those fireworks, and that's usually between $15,000 and $20,000. So we are really in need of some good sponsors there. And then the Children's Parade. We are noticing that there's not as many entries each year, so we just want to encourage the youth throughout the city to get on and apply to be in the Children's Parade. That will be Saturday, July 17th, and any type of family group, organization can be in that, and that's a lot of fun. Lots of freebies. I think carnival tickets are handed out at the end, so all of the kids that are participating in that parade can go on a carnival ride, and there's free popsicles, and it's just a fun event to be a part of. So again, that would be also on the Fiesta Days calendar. Click on Children's Parade. So those are the two things Fiesta Days wise that I wanted to touch base on, and that's all I have.
Great, thank you. Just a couple things Oh, did I forget you? Well, you're on this end. I started with you last time.
You want me to move to that end?
Excuse me. Councilman Argal.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thanks to R&R Barbecue, our newest store in town. Hope you've had the opportunity to go there and eat, and if you haven't, get there. The food's wonderful. We had ribbon cutting here the other day, and they invited us up there. We was kind of threatened, thanks to Tara. Nick, I don't know if you have the picture of us that she sent out.
I hope not.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I need to say to everybody, may the 4th be with you, because that's what today is. And we had a nice dinner tonight with that being the theme, Star Wars, and so that's kind of one of my favorite movies. But Tara had us all made up in some awesome uniforms, and so anyway, thanks to her.
I don't think we can find that.
There we go.
Jeez.
Pretty awesome.
There you
Anyway, thanks, Tara. We appreciate that.
You look just like Chewbacca.
Thanks, Mayor. That's all I have.
All right. Good deal. All right, a couple items. Speaking of Tara, is those who have watched City Council for a long time have noticed that we've had Angie Warner sitting here doing everything. And, it's not Angie Warner anymore. Angie has moved on to another position in the city, down at the fairgrounds, and through a exhausting interview and search, we came up with the perfect person to replace Angie, and we've got Tara Silver here, and we welcome her as our new recorder, and we want to welcome her. So thank you for being here. Yeah. And she's cool because she's got those nice sunglasses on.
Looks like a movie star tonight.
Yeah. It's great. Okay, and I would like to have Dale come up and take a little time to talk about a new policy change at the cemetery.
Thank you, Mayor. We want to make sure the citizens are aware. We've been advertising this new policy since January through Facebook and through the city newsletter. It's also on our website, SpanishFork.org/cemetery under the decorations policy. And we've been talking about this for some time, and we know this is going to be a sore spot for a few of our citizens. But we've had some incidents, or a specific incident, where we've had some people get seriously hurt on these shepherd hooks. We are, as far as I am aware, the last remaining cemetery that allows them in their cemetery. And I guess we had to learn the hard way, because we got an employee seriously hurt from one of these, just doing their regular tasks throughout the day. And I know there's a lot of people that are going to feel bad about this. We've had this out. We've sent a survey out. We've got some feedback from some public. But I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware that we took this opportunity once again. And let me just give you a brief synopsis of the policy. Subject to the following provisions, shepherd hooks and vertical structures are not allowed in the Spanish Fork City Cemetery from November 1st through March 1st. They are not allowed March 2nd through November, or they are allowed, excuse me, I got that just backwards, didn't I? They are allowed from November 1st through March 1st. They are not allowed March 2nd through November 30th. With the exception of the Wednesday before Memorial Day through Sunday following Memorial Day. I know that's all going to be confusing. You can find that online. The gist of it is that during the green season, shepherd hooks are not going to be allowed in the cemetery. And during the winter months, they are allowed. But let me give you just a brief idea, because we've made this year, our deadline is June 7th. And if the shepherd hooks are not removed by then, our staff will remove them and put them in a storage, our dirt compound storage area until they can be retrieved. So we will have signs up at the cemetery. Each shepherd hook will get its own tag that'll be identified as that, as their personal one, so that when we take them, it will have the notice on it. And when we take those down and put those in storage, they can be easily retrieved if you want to keep them, and use them to put up during the times that are allowed. And after a period of time, we will discard those shepherd's hooks. So we do want people to come and take them if they feel like they need to. Any questions on that, Mayor? The best thing to do is go read that on the website to get specific information on all decorations. We're pretty proud of our cemetery. We have a beautiful cemetery. Our residents, we know, love the cemetery, and there are ways to honor our loved ones and decorate those graves without putting people in harm's way.
Great,
Mayor?
thank you, Del.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to Spanish Fork 101, city elections, notice of elections 2021.
Okay. It's that time of year again. Every 2 years, the city has a city election. And this is a city election year, and we have an election every 2 years, and half of the mayor and council are up for election every 2 years. So this year's seats that are up for election are the mayor's seat and 2 city council seats. And this information is being posted right now. This week is the notice that we give that there is an election. So we have to give a notice in the paper, a notice in our newsletter, a notice here in our city council meeting about what it takes to run for city council or the mayor, and how our elections is different from the national elections. Number one big difference is this is not a partisan election, meaning there's not Republicans or Democrats that run for city council or mayor. It's a nonpartisan election, so hopefully it's not divided by political means. It's more of personality and interest of the candidates. These are some important dates to remember. Tonight we are announcing that there's 1 week that you can file, that comes open, that you can file for the candidacy. So come June 1st to June 7th, those are the 7 days that you can run for city council or throw in your hat in the ring to run for those offices. It closes June 7th. That's going to be Monday this year, so it's always June 1st to June 7th. Doesn't matter what days of the week that is. If it falls on a weekend, then it rolls forward to the next day. But this year it's on Monday the 7th. So what the person needs to do is to come to the city recorder's office and file in person and file the correct declaration document to do that. I'll talk a little bit more about that, what that documentation is. The other dates to remember is a primary election in August. 20 years ago, the primary election was in October. and then they moved it to September, and now they've moved it to August. So over the last 20 years, it's migrated sooner to give more time to process things and to provide more campaigning. So August 10th would be the primary, if there is a primary. And then November 2nd is the general election, of the final election. So this is a map of our precincts. Back in the day, it was important to know what precincts you're in. They use these precincts now for congressional races, how they divide up the town on school district positions, different things like that. But for our city, there's not a set candidate or a council person or a mayor from set districts inside our city. So it is an open, at-large election for all seats. And also, in the olden days, you used to go to your elementary school to vote, and you used to go have poll workers there that would help, and they'd be just in your neighborhood. Sometimes it used to be in people's houses that you'd go vote. But Utah has passed a law that we are a vote-by-mail state, so we don't have those election or polling places inside schools anymore. All of our election is done by mail. We do have one place there that's a star, it's the senior center. We call it a voting center or a helping center, that if somebody has trouble or didn't get a ballot or has trouble with the ballot or wants to replace their ballot or any issues, they can go on election day to that spot, and then they'll help them in that spot. We have that scheduled to be at the senior center down at the Spanish Fork City Center. Okay, so we are a vote by mail community. The whole state is, and this means that if you are a registered voter, then you'll get a ballot sent to you. If you're not a registered voter, you will not get a ballot. So it's important for people who have moved into town or moved from one side to another side of town, or just became of age. If you just turned 18, then you can be able to start voting. So you need to make sure that you're registered. The county will send out a card telling you that they have you registered, and this is where they have you registered at. If you don't receive that card, I would suggest that you contact the county. They handle all of the registrations for voting through the county, not through Spanish Fork City. So our election is under contract with the county. And I listed out some things, how do we conduct a city election? Well, we rely on the county to do a lot of our processes because they hold all of the registrations. We don't hold any of the registrations. It's all done through the county and through the Lieutenant Governor's office. So I've listed out a couple things that the city does. We handle the declarations. We gather the candidates and inform them of what rules they need to follow. What are the campaign finance reporting? They report to the city, not to the county. We give out all the notices, publications about the election, and we approve the ballots once the names are presented, and we do the canvass at the end. So that's what the city's role is. The county, they do all the registrations, they print the material to be mailed, they provide the return postage, they validate all the signatures on the ballots that returned. The voter signs the outside of the envelope. They validate that signature against your signature on their system and before they open the envelope. They tabulate all of the votes. They train the poll workers that work in the county building to count, deliver supplies, security, the drop boxes. So the county does quite a bit as far as our election, and they have done better each year. A couple of years ago, we struggled a little bit. The county struggled a little bit. But with practice makes perfect, and the county is getting better with that. So with that, we contract with the county, and they assess a fee. This is the summary of 2 years ago, and just give you an idea of where we've gone and where the county's gone. So they set a rate right here of $1.80 per registered voter. And so in this year, we had 17,000, almost 18,000 registered active voters, and for them to conduct the primary, they gave us an amount of $32,000 to do that. And if they do the general, then it's another $32,000, so it was not to exceed $32,000 per election. When the county got done with their election, you can see what is the biggest bill that they have to do. It's printing the ballots and mailing them, the postage, and then paying on the envelope that comes back. There's an additional postage fee that comes back on that. So their actual fee, cost to them was about $40,000, but they guaranteed it would only be $32,000, and then, so they gave us a credit off, and then for us using our incentive box, our drop box out here, saved the city another $1,000 if we would drop it in the drop box outside without the postage that's on there. Or drop it off at the voting center on election day. You can do it also that way. So what is the rate for this year's election? The county has given us the rate of $2.25, and we've had more people move into the city, so our registered active voters as of the first of the year, they've told us, is 21,000. So the cost of election this year is about $48,000, $47,000 per election. So if we have a primary and a general election, it'll be about $95,000 to do a vote by mail election in Spanish Fork. Okay, so this kind of gives a summary of the numbers, shows the difference in voters that we have and rates that we have and what it really cost us and what the potential cost is here. Not to discourage people to run and to file, but I think it's transparency to the citizens and to the council to know what those costs are as we set our budget. Okay, so a question is, when do we have to have a primary election? So the answer is when there are more than double the possible candidates per seat available. Okay, so let's talk about our election this year. If 2 people or less file for mayor, there's no primary, there's only the general election. If 3 or more file for mayor, then yes, there's a primary to get it narrowed down to just 2. So since there's 1 vacant mayor seat, then you narrow it down. If you had 20 people file, you would narrow it down to 2 that would roll forward to the general election. Now for the council seats, if 4 or less file for the 2 seats, so now there's 2 seats. If there's 4 people that file and it's the top vote getters that get it, then if you have 4 or less, then there's no primary. If you have 5 or more, then you're going to have a primary to narrow the 20 that file down to 4, or if there's 5, you'll have the election to narrow from 5 to 4, so we'll narrow the election down to 4. So going into the general, you'll have 1 or 2, or 1, 2, 3, or 4 in the council seat. So those that are at home thinking about putting their hat in the ring, this cartoon says, the 2 guys are talking, says, did you ever throw your hat into the political ring? No, I never had what it takes. And the guy says, a hat? And he says, no, courage. So it takes courage to run for council. A lot of times I heard it called, it's a thankless job. A lot of critics, not much praise. I think our council does a great job, the mayor and the council, over the years, putting this interest of the city at heart and not having any political agendas or selfish agendas themselves. So I applaud those that have run and those that have won also. Those that haven't won, I still applaud you for throwing your hat in the ring. So just in summary, as far as the deadline, so starting June 1st at 8 o'clock is when the recorder's office will be accepting applications or candidacy applications, and it will close at 5 p.m. sharp. Anybody after 5 will not be accepted after 5 o'clock on the 7th. This is the form you'll have to sign. So it's provided in the recorder's office, and you must sign it in front of the recorder. So what you write on the top up here, this is exactly what you want your name to appear on the ballot. So it's important to have this officially done so it's official for what is used on the ballot. And there's a series of questions that the recorder will ask you to see if you're qualified or not. You'll have to answer those questions to the recorder and then sign this as a candidate right here in front of the recorder, not in front of a notary someplace else, and then bring it in. It has to be done in front of the recorder. Here's some of the qualifications. There's not a lot. You need to be a registered voter inside the municipality that you're going to run for. You must be reside within the community for 12 months before November 2nd. So if you moved in September and you're filing now in June, you're still okay because you will have been in a part of the city for 12 months prior to November 2nd. Okay? And if it's in an annexed area, then you'll have the 12 months also. Pay a fee. There is no fee in Spanish Fork. Some cities have a fee to file, and you're not a convicted felon. Those are the limits of candidacy to run for office. There's a pledge you'll make as far as being campaign practices, to be fair and nice and honest, true, chaste, benevolent, all those good things that we should behave when we are campaigning. Just to disclose also, there are finance reportings that are needed. So you will be required, if you receive more than $500 and spend more than $500, you'll need to document your financial recordings, and you'll have to file those campaign financial disclosures. And if you fail to file those on time, you'll be removed from the ballot. So there are some things that you need to keep track of as you spend money and as you receive donations from people as you run for council or mayor. Again, the deadline starts June 1st, ends June 7th. We talked about when is there going to be a primary. I don't want to prolong that, but it is an important issue. And the mayor's seat, we talked about when there's a primary at the mayor. So the thing that I want to bring out in this one is, if 3 people sign up for mayor and 4 people sign up for council, is there a primary? Yes, just for the mayor's seat. Okay? Those that run for council will not have a primary. They'll just continue on till November, but there will be a runoff or eliminating election in August to eliminate whoever has more than the certain number of people who file a candidacy. And same thing with the council seats, that there could be, if there's 1 or 2 file for mayor, but 8 people file for council, you'll have a primary only in the council, and the mayor will ride forward until the November election. Those are the important dates to remember. Now you can ponder it at home when and if you want to run. If you want to talk your wife or your husband into that, you can start that now, and we'll see you on June 1st for Spanish Fork elections.
Thanks, Kent. Appreciate that. Okay. Let's move to the consent items.
Removing item C, we're not ready for that, and a motion to approve the consent items, removing item C.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Argal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Public hearing, ordinance 08-21, amending the park recreation trails element of the general plan.
Okay, we are extremely excited about this. This has been going on for a really long time, thanks to a worldwide pandemic and other things. We're going to have Lisa Benson is here from Landmark Design, who has been spearheading this along with her team, and they've done an outstanding job with this whole project. The Parks and Recreation Department here does an outstanding job. We're proud of the facilities and things that we have. Just as a little side note to tell you what kind of recreational facilities we do have, the High School Activities Association has asked us to host the Class 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, and 6A softball tournaments this year on 2 different weeks. That's pretty much unheard of. We've hosted a couple, and we host some baseball tournaments as well. So we're pretty proud of our facilities. But this document here is going to give us some direction moving into the future. Obviously, with our fast-growing city, we can get all the direction we can take and help in having us continue to maintain the standard and the level of service that we enjoy here. So I'll turn the time over to Lisa, and appreciate her being here and present the master plan to you.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight to present this plan for adoption. As Dale mentioned, we're really excited to be to this point in the project. The plan itself is divided into 6 chapters. We go into demographics and background in the introduction, summarize community engagement, and then we delve into parks and open space, recreation, arts, and community events, trails, and then we wrap up with implementation and actions. We start out by looking at the demographics just so we have a sense of where you're at and where you're going in the future. The city is expected to build out, or to double by build out. So you're going to go from just over 42,000 people in 2020 to over 88,000 in 2050. So it's a significant change. The city is older than the county, but younger than the state and nation. You have more children under 18 than the county, state, and nation. At the same time, you're also gradually aging, and you have an increasing household size. So you have a lot of different factors coming into play, a lot of different needs to meet in the future. We had a statistically valid survey as part of this process conducted by Y2 Analytics, and we had a really incredible response rate, probably one of the highest response rates we've seen on a plan of this type. So this data is really helpful. The top priorities of residents in that survey were a recreation center, an indoor pool, and new trails and trailheads. The number one reason for using a park is its close proximity to home. So as Councilmember Mendenhall mentioned, that's really important to plan for in the future, good distribution. Residents are really active in the community, and they're more likely to support a bond for a recreation center than to support a bond for arts or cultural facilities. They're willing to pay an average of $67 more a year in taxes to fund their top priorities. And 92% consider the overall quality of your Parks and Rec system as good or excellent, which is a really high rating again. So you guys are doing a great job. You have an excellent array of park facilities and individual amenities that serve members of the community. This map shows the existing parks and open space throughout the city. As part of the plan, we also conducted a detailed amenities inventory, looking at each individual facility and the individual amenities within that, just so that you have good documentation of where you're at right now. Looking at the park types in the city, you have 4 basic park types: mini parks, neighborhood, community, and regional parks. These are the 4 park types that we use when calculating your level of service, and that's just a ratio of park acres per 1,000 people. It's more of a benchmarking tool that we use to see where you're at now and then to target where you want to be in the future. We don't include land that is owned by other school district or the communities, special use parks, facilities that may charge to use, that sort of thing. This is just kind of a basic traditional park level of service evaluation. So looking at those facilities within the community, you have 198.4 acres of existing parkland. Dividing that by your existing population and then multiplying by 1,000 leaves you with 4.7 acres per 1,000 people in the city right now. Another analysis that we do looking at parks is the distribution, again, making sure that there's equitable access throughout the community. And you can see, it's a little hard to tell here in person, but the colors. The distribution is actually really good in the city. There are some areas along the east side of the city over here and then in the north end that have a little bit of a gap right now. But the city currently has planned some of these parks in these areas with the purple service radii. So you're actually already on target to fill a lot of those gaps with your current plans. And then the plan also proposes 7 additional neighborhood parks to help fill in some of those gaps, and then targeting some of those new development areas on the south and west side of the city, also one on the east side. Those would be 5-acre neighborhood parks or larger. Generally, the community is very happy with where your level of service is at right now. So this plan just recommends a small tweak, changing their future level of service to 4.75 acres of parkland per 1,000 people to be more consistent with what's in your impact fee facility plan. Looking out to the future, 10 years out, based on that 4.75 acres per 1,000 people, the city will need 274 acres total parkland. You have 198.4 acres currently. The city does own a significant amount of parkland that is undeveloped right now, which is shown in the chart here at the bottom. So right now, to meet needs, you don't need to acquire any new parkland, but you do need to develop 75.6 of those acres to meet needs by 2030. Looking at build-outs by 2050, it jumps quite a bit because your population is doubling. So you need 421 total acres by 2050. Again, your existing park acreage, also accounting for the 75.6 that you need to develop by 2030. This means that you need to develop the remaining 41.7 of those acres that you already own. And then you also need to acquire and develop 50.3 acres. So that's a pretty significant number. Keep in mind that those 35 acres, those 5-acre neighborhood parks that are being recommended, if you develop those in the right location, then that 35 acres can come out of this 50.3. So you can save yourselves a little bit of money there. The plan includes development standards for all of the different park types, which are intended to just be minimum standards for each of your parks in the future, and also to bring your existing parks up to standard. The plan includes a detailed amenities analysis, so looking at different types of key amenities within the city and kind of based on population and demand, what you need now and then what you'll need at between 2020 and 2030. Open space, the city does have some nice open space amenities already and open space locations. It's typically acquired opportunistically, and so the plan recommends acquiring land that helps preserve key natural drainages or iconic agricultural lands or wildlife corridors, some of those natural resources and facilities that would help, create these great connections and also tying trails into that and connecting your system. The city has a great variety of unique recreation facilities. Without a rec center, you guys still have a lot of great options right now. So, from the water park to the gun club, fairgrounds, you have a lot of really unique facilities that people appreciate in the community. The plan goes into some detail on the recreation programs. The city is doing a great job overall of kind of monitoring those programs and adjusting those as needed to meet community needs and ensure participation is remaining steady or increasing. The survey did provide some insight for some improvements to the recreation programs. Some of those general suggestions include things like making sign up easier by offering online options, offering programs at different times of the day, and more year-round options, those sorts of things. So there's some really great feedback that the city can rely on in the survey results. And as you can see here, residents had a big list of specific requests for recreation programs in the future. Some of these are tied specifically to a recreation center in the future, or you would need some other indoor space to offer them, but definitely, again, more information to consider for the future. When looking at a recreation center and pools specifically in the survey, an indoor and outdoor leisure pool, those facilities ranked really high, as well as an indoor track, splash pad, weight room, and cardio equipment. So these were the top features requested by residents in the survey for a recreation center. Something to note, though, is also that 37% of senior respondents want to see indoor lap lanes, so they want to have that year-round use. And in our focus group, they mentioned that it was really important to explore the option to partner with an adjacent community. And specifically, they mentioned reaching out to Salem just to help pay for this really big ticket item and maybe help meet the needs of both communities without having to expend as much individually as a community. Looking at a new senior center, the plan recommends considering co-locating that with the new recreation center, similar to Provo's Senior and Recreation Center, just to capitalize on some of those benefits and efficiencies that you get tying facilities together. And then you can see here some requested improvements or additions to the gun club, just offering a couple different types of ranges there. The city has a really active arts council, and you can see a significant list of programs that they already put on here. They mentioned their needs are venues. That's kind of their biggest challenge, just having a location to host some of their events, especially in competition with the high school and other organizations in the community. And then storage for some of their sets and other supplies associated with their activities. And as with some of the recreation programs, just how to distribute information about their offerings a little better. That's not an uncommon challenge in any community. So Chapter 5 delves into trails, and the top table here summarizes the types and mileage of proposed trails in the plan, and the bottom table summarizes what your total system would be at build-out. So at build-out, you would be looking at over 5 miles of bike lanes, over 90 miles of local shared use paths, and then there's also a system of regional shared use paths, both paved and unpaved, that are proposed. And I'll just mention that this is constantly in flux, and there have already been suggested amendments and additions to this. So the final plan is just going to have a note in there to say this is current as of this date, and check the city's website for the latest information, because it's intended to be a living document, this master plan. So Chapter 6 gets into implementation and costs. So what it's going to cost the city to bring all of this vision to fruition. So bringing your existing parks up to standard, so that means according to the standards that are set forth in the plan, and then also based on that amenities analysis, kind of amenities per population, the city will need to spend about $820,000. Looking at parks, in addition to that $820,000 to bring parks up to standard, looking at, this is for LOS needs and then also distribution. It comes up to over 72 million. So this is a big ticket. You know, this is a big section here. You need 18.9 million just by 2030, another 53 million by build out. Again, there are some efficiencies you can gain between filling gaps and meeting that LOS need if you build your parks in the right area. So putting all of that together, with trails, we have the costs here for building out the proposed trail system. This assumes that bike lanes are added with roadway improvements, so we haven't included a cost for that. This also does include a line item for some lighting and safety improvements along the regional trails. Those could be lighting, benches, that sort of thing. So that would be 17.4 million for the trail system network and improvements. Adding all of your parks and trails together, and then including a wayfinding and signage master plan and existing installation would be just over 90.5 million. We highly recommend a wayfinding and signage master plan so that people know what you have, where it is, how to get to it, and what the uses and regulations are once they get there. The plan wraps up with an action and implementation plan where we take all of these individual steps. It's a multi-page chart. All of these steps that the city needs to take to help this vision come to reality, and we apply it over a time frame. So we let you know kind of what you need to be jumping on right away and what you need to be looking at in each of these different time frames. And that is the plan.
Thank you. Wow.
Lots of good information, thank you.
That's good. Come on up, Dal, tell us where all the money's coming from.
That's only,
We have 50 years to do it.
yeah, that
Okay.
was, you gotta realize that was out there a little.
30.
30 years. We got 30 years to come up with it, Mayor.
Okay, well,
You and I probably aren't gonna have to worry about it.
good deal. Can't wait to use it.
Yeah, I want to again thank Lisa and her team. This is a very in-depth study. You know, there's a lot of information in here. For the public's information, this will be available online. They've done a really good job of including a lot of special interest groups in this study throughout the city, all different kinds. I think they've covered about everybody. And so they've got a lot of public input on this study. And it seems fairly aggressive, but, you know, that 4.75 acres per 1,000 people is realistic. You know, the mayor signed a proclamation not too long ago that said he wanted a park within a half mile of a walking distance of every house in the city. And so far, we've done a really good job of doing that, and I think we're on track to continue to do that. And that again is, if you look at the study in depth, that one of the things they love is, and the parks that they use the most are those that are within walking distance of their house. So we certainly want to promote that. It promotes health and wellness, both physically and mentally, and if we can get people outside, you know, enjoying some fresh air and some activity, then that helps our entire community. But I want to thank Lisa and her team. They've done an outstanding job in doing this through some difficult situations. I don't know if I've ever actually met her face to face. This has all been, I wasn't sure I recognized who it was when she was here, because this is all done, you know, through video, so.
Good.
Anyway, so we need to adopt this.
So this is a public hearing.
Oh.
Yeah, so we need to go to a public meeting. There might be some questions after, so.
Very good.
Are we going to public hearing?
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're in the public hearing. Anyone that would like to come up and address this issue, feel free to come up. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Argal, a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any questions or comments? If not, then I would entertain a motion.
I'll just reiterate what I said before, early on, but how important this is to be proactive in this type of stuff, or else you find yourself being reactive in a community. And so kudos to, again, you guys for taking this project on in our Parks and Rec Department. With that, I move to approve Ordinance 821, amending Parks, Recreation, and Trails element of the general plan.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Gordon. This is going to be a roll call vote. Councilmember Beck?
Aye.
Councilman Gordon?
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall?
Aye.
Councilman Scobes?
Aye.
Councilman Argal?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you for all the work you've done. That's very informative. Appreciate that. Okay, ordinance Z07-21, changing the zoning designation and amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork for the MTech zone change.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. The origin of this proposal goes back to conversations that we had about a townhome development. It was approved last year in close proximity to the MTech facility on Del Monte Road. And in essence, what is proposed now really wouldn't have any immediate effect, by way of changing the zoning from business park to public facilities for the land that's owned by the state of Utah, really that's tied in one way or another to the MTech facility here in Spanish Fork, changing that from business park to public facilities. But it would have an effect if, for whatever reason, at any point in the future, the use of the property were to be changed. The public facilities zone really is intended to allow for municipal services, the types of things that we as the city operate, some different things that the state operates, and things like schools, really, just like the name suggests, different operations that are involved in providing public services like MTech. And with that, there aren't a lot of other uses that are allowed in the public facilities zone. So should, for example, the state of Utah ever want to, maybe dispose of that property for it to be repurposed for a different use, then there would be a public process that would have to be undertaken before really any non-public uses could go there. I think that is really important, so that the neighborhood would at least have an opportunity to be aware of what was happening, and with a zone change, have an opportunity to come to this forum, to a city council meeting, planning commission meeting as well, to share any thoughts or concerns that they might have about that change. So that's really what I think this amounts to, is just having that opportunity out there in the future for the city to exercise some oversight over what could happen on the property if indeed, again, the MTech facility were to go away and that property to be put on the market maybe for some other use. Incidentally, let me say this, I am not aware of any plans at all that MTech has to do anything different with that property and that facility than what they've been doing for the last 15 or so years. The Development Review Committee and Planning Commission both reviewed this and recommended that it be approved.
Okay, this is also a public hearing, so I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Scobes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're in public hearing. Anyone that would like to come up and address issues, so you're welcome to come up. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Argal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any questions or comments for this? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve ordinance number Z07-21, changing the zoning designation and amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork City for the MTech zone change.
Second?
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilmember Beck. This also is a roll call vote. Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Argal.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
That passes. Ordinance 09-21, changing the general plan designation and amending the official general plan map of Spanish Fork City for the I-15 West General Plan Amendment.
Again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So to start with, the last change that you acted on involved changing the zoning. That's the law, and that has really serious implications. What we're talking about here is a little bit different. This pertains to an advisory document, our general plan, talking specifically about land use right now. And really, it is that. It is an advisory document. You're well aware that when zone changes are proposed, this is the guide that we use as staff. I'd also call it, maybe a measuring stick, where most of the time, if a zoning proposal is consistent with the different land use designations that we have on the general plan, then staff would recommend that it be approved. If that's not the case, then typically staff would recommend that it not be approved. But the council has all the latitude that you'd ever want to use in taking this document, in its advisory capacity and making whatever decision you want to make. That being said, just to zero in on the proposal, and I guess there's one other thing I need to mention, kind of relative to the unique nature of this, before we touch on what really are the simple details of it. The properties involved in this change are currently not in Spanish Fork. They're entirely in Utah County. We're talking about properties that are entirely on the west side of I-15, south of, south of the Spanish Fork River, maybe to use that as kind of the landmark on the northern end of what's proposed. We care about properties that aren't in the city now because indeed the city has plans, at least potentially, for future annexations that would bring areas like this into the city. We plan to provide services to areas like this. Indeed, there's a large infrastructure project that's underway right now that would serve at least part of the area that we'll talk about. And that simply is part of planning for orderly growth and good planning and making good land use decisions, looking well out into the future, because frankly we know that oftentimes what we do today really does have an impact well down the road. That being said, this proposal really is quite simple. Right now, there is this area here, so again, Spanish Fork River, sugar beet factory, if you will, is maybe just right off of the image here. This is I-15. This is 8,000 south down here, so the Salem-Benjamin interchange. The bridge over at 9th South is there, so this area here, right now, again, it's not in the city. Right now, that green color is tied to an agricultural land use designation that we have on the general plan. So that's maybe one half of the proposed change. The change is proposed to take that area from the agricultural designation to a low-density residential designation. This is the color here that we use to describe that. That would allow for what I would call suburban residential kind of development at 2 or 3 units to the acre. The type of development that I would say we see most commonly today in Spanish Fork. The other half of the change involves this area right here that for a number of different reasons back in 2009 and 10 when this map was developed, that area was designated industrial. And I guess I'd say likewise for a number of different reasons today, we think it's appropriate to present this proposal to change that area from industrial to match what I talked about here to that low-density residential designation, again, to allow for the kind of suburban residential development in this area right here. So those are the two components of the change, going from agriculture and industrial to low-density residential for those areas that I described. This does not really become anything other than an idea prior to the properties being annexed and you making a consideration when properties are annexed about zoning and what those future land uses can be. And incidentally, like we're talking about tonight, and as was mentioned with the Parks and Recreation element of the general plan a minute ago, they're living documents that are intended to change and to evolve as we get more information about what makes sense or what doesn't, and try to make the best decisions. So, like with the previous proposal, the Development Review Committee and the Planning Commission both reviewed this one and recommended that it be approved.
Okay. This also is a public hearing, so I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
A motion by
Second.
Councilman Argyle, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone that'd like to come up and talk about this, come up, state your name, and you get 3 minutes claim to fame.
My name is Bridget Verheeren, and I've been in the zoning and planning office, and my understanding was that it was going to be changed to medium density. So I just want clarification. Is it low density or is it medium density for those properties?
It says low density on the document.
Okay, because in the planning office, I've been speaking to the person up front, and Kimberly said that it was being changed to medium density.
Is that your only question then? And I'll have him come and answer that for you. Go ahead, Dave.
Kimberly doesn't get things wrong very often, but if she said medium density residential, she was wrong. It's low density is what the proposal is. At the same time, the council can consider whatever you'd care to now, so.
Okay.
The difference would be a cap at about 3 units to the acre with the low density and as many as 8 units to the acre with medium density residential designations there, so.
So right now it states low.
That's what's proposed.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments on this?
So if you can explain all those other areas.
Just come up and state your name.
Joyce Waite.
Okay.
Like we're in the darker yellow, so what is your plan for that? I didn't hear anything from him on that area.
Which,
Right up here.
No, down here.
On the proposed? So down in the next one, yeah.
Yeah,
Down.
in that area, but on the other side of the freeway.
Right here?
Yeah.
All right.
so that's not going to change. That's staying what it,
It's staying farm.
well, no, sorry, I'll let Dave explain it. The way I
Is
understand.
that your only question then? I want to make sure you get all the questions you want.
Well, yeah, I want to know why, is it because of the growing community? Why do you want us? Because we're happy in our farming community? So what makes you guys want us, and who has the power to do this?
Okay, well, I'll let Dave answer that question because he has the answers for both those for you. Great. Come on up, Dave.
Let me start with this one about, maybe the idea of the city wanting properties in the area. Frankly, I think Spanish Fork does try to make an effort to accommodate the future needs of a growing community where we know there's going to be a future demand for more homes, more businesses, more of pretty much everything. So that's why we do look beyond the current city boundary at areas that maybe make sense for different land uses in the future or not. And with that being said, still, the process that cities go through in order to grow is called annexation. And but for a few instances where we were trying to accomplish something very specific, like to bring land into Spanish Fork so that we could extend the runway, we did that maybe 10 years ago with a city-initiated annexation. Annexations are almost always initiated by property owners that for one reason or another want to have their property in a city like Spanish Fork City versus being in a county like Utah County. Most of the time that does involve changing land use, being able to access things like city services, water, power, sewer, and those types of things that, particularly in Utah County, the county does not provide. But again, I guess the thing that I really want to emphasize is that I think our anticipation now would be that for any lands to come into Spanish Fork in the area that we're talking about here, that would be at the request of a property owner. Literally, that's how it's phrased. It's a request for annexation that goes through a certain process, and eventually, as you guys know, you get to make that decision about what happens and whether properties are annexed or not. Now, as part of that process, this does come into play, this guide for zoning. And particularly if somebody is ready to develop right when the property's annexed and to have property zoned for development, we look at this, and I really appreciate, and I'm a little bit embarrassed that I tend to gloss over, what these colors mean and that type of a thing. I don't expect any rational person to get it based on what we're showing here. So maybe just to take a quick minute to kind of describe how this is intended to give somebody some kind of idea about what the city's future for development in the area would be. Like I said, this is I-15 and this is the Salem-Benjamin interchange. As we look at interchanges all along the Wasatch Front and well beyond, we see that it's pretty common to have some pretty big retail businesses around interchanges. And for a lot of reasons, we think that's a good thing for a community, even maybe a neighborhood. So the red color that we have there suggests that that's what the city would like to see. So the city would like to zone properties around that interchange for those types of uses. Big grocery stores, big things maybe like a Walmart or something like that. And then, kind of looking beyond that to the blue, a lot of times you'll see maybe some office developments or something like that next to big commercial development. Maybe some higher density residential development, condominiums and that type of a thing. And the blue is intended to suggest that that's what we'd expect them to see next to those things, next to that retail development. And that's then, where typically you'd get into, maybe a different land use altogether, like industrial development, or like we're suggesting tonight, maybe some lower density residential kind of development, single family homes, maybe next to some condominiums or something like that. As you go into a larger area, where I think Spanish Fork's character historically primarily has been, single family homes and that type of a thing. So that's maybe just a little bit more perspective. I hope that sheds a little bit more light on just kind of what some of the things that we see here mean. The question about this yellow, is that?
Yeah, that's where we live.
Okay, so first of all, in terms of somebody's ability to continue to do what they're doing now, I don't believe anybody can make you change what you're doing now. If the property, your property were annexed, really regardless of how the city were to zone it, you'd have rights to be able to continue to do what you're doing, but I don't think anybody could.
Well, our problem is we've been pushed out of city by city. So we was pushed out of Mapleton. Okay, they didn't want horses unless you had over an acre. You know. So then we built ourselves back up and bought down there. And
Yeah, I'm going to have you come up to the mic so people can hear you. All those 10 million people in TV land can't hear you.
So for me, you know, I like having horses and cows. And as the city grows, we push the dairy, the horses, the cows out. We don't build trails and park recreation. We have a nice facility here for rodeos. We have a nice facility for horses to ride in an arena. We don't have trail rides. We don't have the access to ride a horse to the mountains. And so we're down there, it's like our last little, for me, I moved there to get away from the city, you know, to have a place to have horses, cows, and a dog, you know. So if you are going to come down there, I would ask that you do something with the river. Have a horse facility, have a trail ride where you can ride a horse down, you know. Recognize maybe a 1 acre facility for now, or something of a 1 acre development that connects onto the facility you have now, you know, to where a person can own a horse and ride down the river. I know we got trails, we got baseball parks, we have everything else, but maybe consider instead of a high density, I know it's going to go commercial. I went to the federal meeting 2.5 years ago, and they said 2.5 million people are going to move into Utah County. It scared me, you know. But so it's going to happen, but can we at least try to maintain that quality of life that Spanish Fork is? You know, I grew up in Springville, and we're slowly getting pushed
Exactly.
out.
Well, and that's a great idea, and we appreciate those comments. That's a good thing to look at and consider when we start developing down that way.
West side, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the end of it.
Perfect.
Tad Wade.
Thank you. Sorry, I should have mentioned that to you. All right, anyone else that'd like to talk about this issue?
You still really didn't tell me what they want to do with that, where we're at.
What's that area zone, again, the potential could be there?
Yeah, what I was saying, what is the color now? Because that color's not changing on this map, right?
So it's that medium density.
But it's the medium.
Right, so that would be probably something like single-family homes, maybe with some townhomes or something like that. That would be the type of development that we'd expect to see for areas that have that designation on the general plan. And that would only, I really feel the need to kind of emphasize this point if I can. That would only happen if, for example, you wanted to sell your property to somebody, then this would be the guide that, you know, council ultimately would use in terms of deciding what made sense. Got it, so you understand that. And at the same time, I certainly acknowledge it. We've heard the very concern that you've raised tonight about as you want to do what you've been doing well into the future as land use around changes, we acknowledge that that does sometimes make it harder for people to continue to farm, to have livestock, to do any of those types of things. I know you're sensitive to that. That's why we've had a number of conversations that we've had about the river bottoms and so forth. And all I can say is that we do make an effort as areas like this change from being, you know, really exclusively farmland to different things to try to account for that and make sure that people still have access to water, to make sure that, you know, their properties are protected so that, you know, livestock don't get messed with and different things of that nature. But certainly acknowledge that that does become a challenge.
Great. All right, thanks, Dave. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Scobes, a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any other questions or comments? Once again, you know, when we don't go out and seek land to come in, you know, it's usually someone asks to come in, and so, you know, you'd be the ones that want to come in and say, yeah, we want to be part of the city, we want to access our property. So keep doing what you're doing, and appreciate that.
Mayor, if I may, I think the biggest distinction, and over the years I've been on the council where where the city, and we've looked at this general plan. Often people look at, well, you're trying to change the use of my land. And what's helped me understand it over the years is just this. I lived in a house for a period of time where the neighbor, I got to say, had a beautiful piece of land. Their house was attached to it. And as a neighbor, I had plans for their land. Now, I didn't have the money nor the means to buy it, but in my mind, I had a general plan like this where if I could get my neighbor's house and land, my plan was to take the house and rent it out, chop the land in half, and the back half of it, in one part where the yellow is, that's where I want to put the garden, and where the blue is, that's where I want to put the shed. And so in those terms, that's what's helped me understand how cities have a general plan. It's not, I never had any designs on my neighbor's house to go over and force and pound on the door and say, sell it to me now, and oh, by the way, I'm going to throw seed over the fence so my garden starts growing, and I'm going to throw lumber over the fence so that a shed starts to appear. There's no force with any of this. This is the city looking at a neighbor's chunk of land saying, if they ever sell it, I would love to put this here and that there, and that's what the city's general plan is. It's just that wishful thinking of, if I could ever acquire that land, this is what I would like to do with it. Now, the input that you gave I think is wonderful to be able to have sort of that rural feel that we have here in the valley, especially with 2.5 million people coming in. But I think that's the biggest distinction over the years that I've learned is this is just the neighbor next door that's looking at a particular piece of land in the area saying, boy, if I could buy that, I'd tear it down and I'd build a rental, or you know what, I'd open this up for a big garden, or I'd put fruit trees or a shed or whatever. And so for those watching on TV, really, for me, that's what's helped me understand it. It's not a city's land grab. It's just hey, if I could buy it, this is what I would do. And we all do that as citizens when we look at the land, the property that's down the street, or my neighbors, or, the one on the corner for sale. So that just my 2 cents, how I view it and how I've understood it over the years. That's all, Mayor.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve ordinance 09-21, changing the general plan designation and amending the official general plan map of Spanish Fork City for the I-15 West General Plan Amendment.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilmember Beck, second by Councilman Scobes. This is a roll call vote. Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Okay, ordinance Z8-21, changing the zone designation, amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork for the Fritzie zone change.
Once again, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Back to zoning. So not the general plan, not advisory, talking about the law. In this case, we're talking about property that's in between Cowpack Avenue here, it's Arrowhead Trail, and Mill Road over here. Del Monte Road over here. The Fritzie Building, old cannery. Does everybody know what I'm talking about there?
Yep.
It currently is zoned Industrial 1, as is a vacant site next to it that is owned by the same owner. So this is the area that we're talking about, and the proposal simply at this time is to change it from Industrial 1 to rural residential. So you see all the green there. Rural residential is currently how at least some of the property surrounding the Fritzie site is zoned. Really, the proposed change is just that, going from industrial to rural residential. As staff, we think this is very, very important to do right now. Incidentally, the Development Review Committee and Planning Commission both have reviewed this proposal and recommended that it be approved. Probably the biggest impetus for having this on your agenda tonight is work that Clyde Companies and Sunrock have invested on the site that they have just next door to the south of the Fritzie property. But That's not the only reason that it's before you tonight. You're aware that we've dealt with some other situations in the community, kind of in the same neighborhood as the Fritzy site in recent years, where there was some almost like legacy zoning in place, industrial zoning, for operations that had long been defunct and out of business. For example, along Del Monte Road. And genuinely, I wish that we could have another bite at that apple and go back, maybe 7 or 8 years to do what's proposed tonight, or at least to have some change like this considered, to take that industrial zoning off the books before somebody made a proposal that was consistent with the law and therefore could not be denied. That is why, in particular, I believe it's important to change the zoning here before Sunrock moves forward with plans that certainly would result in tens of millions of dollars of investment on the neighboring site. Creating a neighborhood that really would have a front door going right by the Fritzy property and so forth. It's not to say that we understand that the property owner has any imminent plans to put any industrial uses on the Fritzy property that might kind of exacerbate concerns that we'd have with having single-family homes right next to industrial development. But again, I don't think that's really the issue. I think the issue is potential and us being prepared and doing the right thing now to make sure that we have the right types of land use arrangements in the future. This change really does not do much at all in terms of taking any rights away from the property owner. No businesses that might operate today out of the Fritzy building would have to change what they're doing at all. They simply become non-conforming uses, and as such, they're absolutely entitled to be able to continue to operate as they're doing now, well into the future, perpetually, as I understand it even. But again, I think this provides an important type of protection for the city and what I think is going to be a pretty vibrant neighborhood here in the future. I understand that Mr. Taylor Smith is here tonight to speak on behalf of Bob Tandler, the owner. We've spoke with Bob about this in recent weeks. And maybe just the last thing that I'll mention as well, we've had even today and yesterday conversations with people representing Mr. Tandler about the prospect of redeveloping this property and developing some other properties that he has in the area. Things that frankly are really, really exciting. But the fact that we're having those conversations now, I don't think is any reason at all to pump the brakes or to slow down on getting what I think is a really important change made. So,
Good. We'll have him come up then. Come up, state your name.
Taylor Smith, and I'm representing Bob Tandler in this. He is the owner of this property, and we would just like to ask the council to delay the rezoning of this. We have been in talks with the city. We've had several meetings with them, and for our meeting progress and everything, we would ask this council to just delay this for the future, here in the near future, just for the time being, till we can get some more things worked out with the city and other things we have planned. Any questions to that?
Okay, so you want to delay it?
Yes, sir. We want to delay the rezoning for now.
Do you know if you were given ample time about notice of this?
We've had several discussions with Dave about what we have planned and what we want to do. We have a very good idea of that, and we have ongoing discussions with that. Mr. Tandler is located in California, so we've been having Zoom meetings very often with him. And if we could just have a little bit more time on this, that would benefit, I think, both parties in the long run, the city and my client.
All right. Okay, Dave, what's your position on that?
I really do appreciate what Taylor's saying, and I think what Mr. Tandler really thinks he wants. But this is on your agenda for a really significant reason. We're genuinely concerned about the industrial zoning and don't think it is in any way good for the area or the city to keep that in place.
Okay.
And Taylor, I'll put it, I can't imagine anybody's concerned with me sharing that we're talking about the property being redeveloped exclusively with residential uses. I guess maybe but for the corner of Arrowhead Trail and Main Street which Mr. Tandler owns as well, where there might be a way to put a commercial use right on the corner. Everything else would be residential. And with that in mind, in one sense, the change that's proposed tonight really becomes non-consequential, because in order for the use of the property then to change, we'd be back before you. Hopefully in a matter of just a couple of months with a development proposal that would require a zone change anyway, to change it to residential. So in particular, I think that's all the more reason to not delay tonight and to act.
Okay. All right, this is a public hearing. It has been designated that, so I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
Motion to go into public hearing.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone that would like to come up and talk about this? Seeing none, I'd go entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
A motion by Councilman Argal, a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any questions, comments, or discussion on this?
Maybe for reference, Dave, when did the zone change of the Sunrock area that you spoke to that's going to be developed residential, when did we do that?
That was about 10 years ago. There's actually a development approved back, and it was more than 10 years ago, now that I think about it. 2009, I think the zoning was changed when a development was approved for that property. The economy changed, people stopped developing sites, and that really has been on the shelf ever since. But that R112 zoning there has been in place for about that long.
And have kept operating as they've.
And they've operated as a non-conforming use since then, yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Council, just a quick question for you. Was that accurate, what Mr. Anderson said, that the talks and discussions your owner is currently having is with regard to future residential use?
Yes, we do have that, and there's also going to be a commercial, in preliminary plans have a commercial, and I don't know if Dave, across the way there, he does own a strip there, and we do own that and have plans for that with the city. Don't want to go into that right now, but it
Sure.
would be to the city's benefit, especially that piece across the way, so.
Okay. With that, I'd entertain a motion.
I move we go out of public hearing.
I think we did that already.
Did we?
Done that already. Stay with me.
All right. Sorry, I'm still thinking. I just have one other comment then. Light industrial, just looking at it, if the intent is residential use, leaving it industrial, you've got everything from storage uses, gas, noise, odor. If you look at the area, you've got everything from rural residential to medium density. If the discussions are currently for residential, I've never liked industrial in that area, especially as it's all residential around it and surrounding it. It doesn't make sense for it to be industrial in that area. So that's just my 2 cents.
All right. I'd still entertain a motion.
Oh. All right, let's see. There it is. I move we approve ordinance Z8-21, changing the zoning designation, amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork City for the Fritzie zone change.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Scobes, a second by Councilman Gordon. This is a roll call vote. Councilmember Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Argal.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Passes.
Hey, Dave, the land on the other side of this is already rural residential, right? On the other side of Main Street, that piece that he is referring to?
It is.
Is, okay.
Designated mixed use on the general plan, and that's part of what we're talking with Taylor and his team about right now in terms of what makes sense development-wise, for everything. And I'll say this because we talked yesterday about maybe having a concept plan in front of you in a month for the development of that property, and the idea of being able to take all of the property that Mr. Tandler owns on each side of Main Street, even like Taylor referenced, and to do one development / redevelopment project at once. In my mind, it's incredible, the opportunity that we have there to do something that I think could take an existing use that served a great life, but that probably is at the end of that life, in my opinion, in terms of kind of being obsolete and doing something really great with the site, with a great site.
Okay. All right, ordinance 10-21, changing the general plan designation and amending the official general plan map of Spanish Fork for the 2700 North Interchange General Plan Amendment.
Got the theme going tonight, right? So back general plan now. The next two items, both are tied entirely to the idea that there's going to be a new interchange at 2700 North and I-15. That's going to be operational here in just a few years. So with that, we do anticipate that land uses are going to change. And frankly, knowing now that that interchange is going to be there, without question, I think the city needs to act with that understanding, and the action really should be different than how it was back 11 or 12 years ago now, when the current general plan designations were put on the map. We had the advantage as well recently of doing the vision plan for the area here surrounding the future interchange, and that gave us the blueprint for what I'll talk through right here. I'm going to try to do this kind of quick, so please ask any questions that you have. As we've had with the other items, the image above describes the current general plan designations in the area. Below is what's proposed. It might be a little bit confusing because this business park designation, that shade of blue, fortunate that that's similar to our mixed use shade of blue. So let me just really quickly differentiate between plans that are proposed to have mixed use north of the hospital and north of Irontown and Precor and some other uses that right now are kind of the end of development. If you were to go on Canyon Creek Parkway North, see what stops. What's proposed there is a combination of professional office uses, maybe some research and development sites, professional office uses, I said that a second ago, residential uses, and this area here, unlike what the current plan really contemplated, which is primarily employment, industrial, maybe some professional office, but the thing that I would emphasize there right now is the industrial component of the general plan designations for that area. We did not know that there was going to be a hospital in the vicinity. Back when this was put together, we did not know. The interchange was a dream, but we did not know that that would become a reality. And we didn't expect that access to the area would be what it is today, let alone what it's going to become. I think that's largely why we viewed that as simply an industrial part of the community. That has changed, obviously, a lot. And that being said, the mixed-use designation is one of the more permissive designations that we have in our general plan. Like I said, everything from residential uses to lots of different office types of uses and that sort of a thing. I think that accurately reflects the general vision that we have now for land use in that area, but still affords people a lot of opportunity to do a lot of different things. You can see as well that we really didn't have any designations for any exclusively commercial kind of development. In this vicinity on the east side of I-15, we think now that it probably makes some sense to plan explicitly for that, at least right along the southern boundary of 2700 North. And for that reason, that's been included in what's proposed. There's really less room, I think, for change on the other side of I-15, given the existing uses that we have in place now. Some of you have seen, I suspect, to me it looks freaking huge, building that Colmena's stood up on their 80 acres right here, the first 300,000 square feet of what might be a couple of million square feet of property over there. So I think with them having kind of the key parcel already acquired and having fairly explicit plans for that, it doesn't make a lot of sense to focus on big changes for its use. So you can see the proposed designation there really doesn't change much, but for maybe a corner there that we think might make some sense for some kind of commercial development. Understand now that with the development of the interchange, 27 North is going to be widened and improved all the way over to Main Street. There likely would be a signal installed with that project there, and you start to see the pieces of things that maybe become critical to supporting retail development. The vision plan that we did also painted a very clear picture, I believe, that when access to this property right here improves with the absolutely great visibility that it has along I-15, that should develop with something other than industrial uses. Retail, hospitality, hotels, restaurants, those types of things. From a market perspective, we believe absolutely could work in that area, and we think the general plan should suggest that. So then zoning follows, and we're starting to limit what people can do there, so we truly get the best use that we can on that site. And just in a nutshell, that's the proposal that's made. Again, there are a lot of different things that have happened in recent years that have led to this point, and yet this is really just a blueprint, like I said, but I think it's a really important step for the city to take in order to make sure that the vision that you have as the council is what we have on the books in terms of the future development around that interchange.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'd entertain a motion, go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Argyle, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone from the public that'd like to come and talk to us about this? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Councilman Argyle, a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move that we approve ordinance number 10-21, changing the general plan designation and amending the official general plan map of Spanish Fork City for the 2700 North Interchange General Plan.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Beck, second by Councilman Scobes. Roll call vote. Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
All right, ordinance Z09-21, changing the zoning designation and amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork for the 2700 North Interchange Zone change.
Once again, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Last one. And Nick, okay. I think from what we just talked about, you may recognize some things here. And again, one of the concerns that we have is that people would pursue development under the existing law. We're talking about, again, the law here with zoning, where really right now, the study area around the interchange is almost entirely zoned industrial. We think that potentially would sell the city short. So consistent with what we just looked at, the proposal is to change the zoning to commercial on the west side of I-15 like we see here, including this, and to change this property here that's between Colmena's development and Main Street where it curves there right at the Armory and so forth going north, changing that to business park, which is a little bit more restrictive than industrial. And then on the other side of I-15, likewise, changing the zoning of these properties here to business park, which still certainly allows for a lot of different uses that we as the city think wouldn't necessarily be incompatible at all with things like the hospital. In fact, a lot of the things that we would expect to be developed around a hospital, medical office buildings and so forth, are consistent. They're permitted in that business park zone. But it would exclude some of the things that are allowed in our industrial zone. And then having land designated on the zoning map with a C2 zone right along that frontage of 2700 North, we think is good to do right now before people really start to speculate on development in the area and really plan in detail for different projects. I really believe this is the time to make these changes. And then as proposals come in, certainly there still is an opportunity in the future to fine tune and to adjust based on whatever somebody might bring forward. But I think this protects the city from having things happen this is like a critical habitat now, in my mind, for land use, where with that huge investment that's being made in the interchange, boy, we really want to get it right from a land use perspective, and I think this is a good step in that direction. Like with the other proposals I've talked about, the Development Review Committee and the Planning Commission have both recommended that this be approved.
Okay, this is a public hearing, so I'd entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Scobes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone from the public would like to speak on this?
I would. Maybe Dave can explain a little bit about
State your name.
Mr. Clark,
Full
410
name.
West, 600 North, Spanish Fork, Utah.
I didn't get the first name.
Mr.
Heavy on the Mr.
Where's Chief Adams?
Anyway, just a question on understanding of you're picking, is this a thing you turn on right here? Our family owns that part right there. Is this staying industrial then? Is that what I'm wondering about here? And is there, why that is, you're picking that to be there, or why not any of this other part as commercial or a business part? What's your logic between why you picked that as being the business part? And then the second question is, a lot of times the city has an idea not to zone anything commercial until there's a business there. So I don't know why there's a change now. You want to make an area right here commercial before there is development already known. Maybe you can explain that.
Yeah, those are great questions. On the business park designation, I need to stop saying, on the proposal to have this property here zoned business park, why that area is proposed to be changed and not this really is simply a factor of this property here having a vested approval right now to develop with uses that I would say are more consistent with our industrial zone than what the business park zone would permit. And you could probably debate a little bit about whether what Colmaine is building here is business park or industrial, but I think when you get into the kind of scale that they have, that's industrial. So that's just it. They proposed a development with the industrial zone in place, and like we're obligated to do when they met the standards for that particular kind of development, it got approved and they're vested now to develop it as such. That wouldn't stop necessarily the city council at all from having the ability to change the zoning to business park if you wanted to. I think that's on the table if you wanted to consider that. I think you probably have to go back through a notice process to do that. But that's what's distinct between this property here and frankly any others in the area, that we have not received development proposals for, certainly haven't approved any projects. The business park designation here, if we were to pull up that vision plan, I think you'd see some things that are proposed to be there, professional office types of development and that sort of a thing that probably are much more suitable for a business park zone than the industrial.
Proximity to Main Street, I think, is a factor there.
Yeah, certainly that. And, the other thing really is the belief that there's going to be a need for professional office space in Spanish Fork in the future. We really don't have much today, and we really don't have a lot of land that's designated for it. If you look around town, oftentimes when people are looking to develop in, some kind of proximity to the hospital site, they feel like, boy, there's a lot of vacant land around and a lot of opportunity to find sites for, whatever it might be, that wants to locate in an office building. But by the time you take the wetlands and landfill and different things like that out, of that area that looks so open and developable, there's really not a lot left. So I think that's part of maybe the logic as well. And like Seth said, right along Main Street, good frontage, trying to elevate, the land use that we get there from what somebody might be able to just as easily locate a mile away from Main Street and that type of a thing. On the commercial zoning, I actually would disagree with what Kent said. I think it's really important to get commercial zoning on the map now, soon, versus residential. You've noticed that we don't typically bring proposals to you for a residential zone change until we have a specific development in hand and we know exactly what that's going to look like and how it's going to happen and so forth. I'm much less concerned about, maybe like a bait and switch or something like that with commercial zoning. I think for the areas that we're proposing to be zoned commercial 2, any uses that are allowed in the commercial 2 zone, if somebody can meet our standards for parking and different things like that, we'd welcome. So really it's a preservation thing from my perspective to get that zoning in place to make sure that we get those uses that are permitted in the zone versus, maybe worrying about what we get down the road like we do so much with residential zones where it's just kind of a different story altogether about development and quality and some of those things.
Great. Thank you.
One additional comment about this area, the Springville City is undertaking a fairly large, they're undertaking a review of the area in large scale, so if you could see, Springville off of this map, I think it's very appropriate for us to know, certainly at least consider, but know that chances are these zoning designations could change. But what's really important, if you'll scroll so we can see the top here, we don't want somebody to come in with this area being zoned industrial today. We don't want somebody coming in and doing some industrial use. I think it was pretty quick after we started this process that somebody said in one of these northern properties, hey, wait a second, does that mean I can't do X? And the answer was, yeah, it does mean you can't do X. We don't want that there. That is how the zone has been. But now that there's going to be an off-ramp here, that's not where we want our industrial use. At least that's the proposal that you're talking about right now. And so I think it's fair to say with the zone change that we've done or proposed here, you could certainly see some further refinements of that from the applicants or from the landowners or future interested parties that have contracts on land, at some future date. But I'd expect that to be a couple of years as well.
All right, anyone else that would like to come up and talk about this? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to go out of public hearing.
So moved.
A motion by Councilman Argyle. Second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Where is it?
I move to approve ordinance Z0921, changing the zoning designation and amending the official zoning map of Spanish Fork City for the 2700 North Interchange zone change.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Gordon. This is a roll call vote. Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scove.
Aye.
Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
That passes. Okay, I'm going to go to new business. We are going to move down to C, Resolution 21-11.
So we need to do A first, and then skip B.
Okay, it's not what you had on here. You told me to go to C and then A.
Because that's the policy.
I've got the proof, but we'll go to A first.
Do what I say, not what I text it.
Yeah. All right, let's go to A, Resolution 21-10.
The item you wanted to say.
Which do you want me to do?
Come on, that was
It's your world.
Star Wars thing.
Confusing you are.
I can see. I'm a Marvel guy, you can stay with your Star Wars. How you like that? That's why I got Captain America socks on. All right, Resolution 21-10, Personnel Policy Update, Recorder's Treasurer. Take it away.
I'm trying to decide which galaxy or universe I'm in here, or city. I think I'm in Spanish Fork still, right?
Yeah, you are.
Oh my goodness, we got all
He's been
kinds-
into super glue again.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. How do we?
You need to listen to your wife. That's
So this proposal is that we amend our personnel policy to make a slight change, which actually has a pretty big effect. That slight change would be when we, state law requires that the mayor appoint 2 positions, well, actually, there's 3 positions in the city. This only has to do with 2 of those that are appointed by the mayor. 1, the recorder, and 2, the treasurer. So state law does not require that that the recorder or treasurer has to be at will versus for cause. The differentiation there is an at-will employee, you can terminate at any time without cause. So if for some reason, I said you look like Chewbacca, Mayor, you could say, I don't think that's funny, and you could get rid of me. I think someone made a comment like that
Serious, can we
earlier.
do that?
You can do that. I'm giving, I'm just sharing the facts. Is that not all right?
These are not the facts.
Oh.
All right. So that's at will. And then the other, there's for cause. So currently the recorder and treasurer positions are at will as far as the personnel policy is concerned. We'd like to make a recommendation that that's changed so that if the recorder or treasurer is let go, it be for a reason. One of the reasons it's in our personnel policy manual. And the purpose of this is it's really not, the treasurer and the recorder are really not political positions here in this city. In some cities, they are, but not here. So that's the reason that we're recommending this change. Any questions?
Any questions before I can him?
I was thinking you look more like Luke Skywalker. Like the young,
okay,
young
you got your
Luke
job
Skywalker.
back.
Early Star Wars.
You can't can Tyler, you can. That's why I'm like, seriously, Tyler.
I can can you, and then I can point him, and then I can can him. There are ways to get around this, buddy.
Those are not
May the force be with you, buddy. All right. If not, any questions, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve Resolution 21-10, Personal Policy Update of the Recorder and Treasurer.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Argyle, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. This is a roll call vote. Councilman Scobes.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
All right, that passes. Now we will go to C. And the Resolution 2111A, a resolution giving advice and consent to the appointment of a city recorder. So, let me get there. Wow. I would like, let's see, how am I supposed to say this in the Star Wars?
City Recorder Tara Silver, appoint I must.
Appointment I must, Terry Silver. I would love to appoint Tara to this appointment. So this will be a roll call vote. First of all, I guess I need a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 21-11, a resolution giving advice and consent to the appointment of a city recorder.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilmember Beck. This is a roll call vote. Hey, you don't
like
get a
that.
vote.
I like that.
All right.
He's fine.
Councilman Argyle.
Aye.
Councilmember Beck.
Aye.
Councilman Gordon.
Aye.
Councilman Mendenhall.
Aye.
Councilman Scopes.
Aye.
With that, I would love to appoint Tara Silver to the office of recorder. And I do appoint that.
Can I share a couple of words about Tara?
Yeah, that's why she wore sunglasses, because when you make her cry.
So let's go there first. Sunglasses. So the reason Tara has on sunglasses tonight, hopefully she's okay with me sharing this with the world. She doesn't typically wear them indoors, but she's had a challenge with one of her eyes, and so the light really hurts. And being in your presence, obviously there's a lot of light. She wore her sunglasses, so that's the reason for that.
Keep him. Don't fire him tonight.
Yeah, you're okay.
So Tara, back in 2013, correct me if my dates are wrong, Tara, but started to volunteer for the city with the Youth City Council. And that program has grown substantially, much because of Tara's efforts and much because of the efforts of some of you on the council that have served on that with the Youth City Council. And I first met Tara in 2016, I believe, when we got the opportunity to drive the city senior vans up to Salt Lake to the legislative session with the youth. And it was really apparent just how much Tara cared about each one of those kids, and that caring has continued. Mayor always talks about the volunteerism that is Spanish Fork City, and Tara encompasses that. In fact, the way that she started working for the city in any type of an official capacity was she was going to UVU and needed an internship for her program, and she came and said, "Hey, what would you think about me taking an unpaid internship?" And I said, "We don't really do those except for with high school students we have when they've requested them." But we said, "You know what, for you, Tara, we'll make an exception. You've given, a lot of volunteer hours to us. We'd love to
Not pay you some more?
Yeah, we'd love to.
Yeah. So eventually what happened was there was a position that came open within the city, and Tara was a great fit and hired on in 2018 in our HR department, and she has continually grown there, and so been with us since 2021. We're grateful that she cares so much about our employees. She recently gave, at our supervisor training, a wonderful report on the languages of appreciation. So if anybody ever wants to hear a great presentation on that, Tara's got that down really well. We've got her family's here with her. Her husband, Jared, we wish he could be here with us tonight. He's had a medical procedure recently and is not able to be here, but hopefully he's one of the 10 million viewers at home and enjoying this. And so she's got her daughter, Ashley, and your son, Ethan. Is that right? Okay. And then Brittany and Thomas. So we've asked them to give short speeches. Actually, no, and then also, I think the parents are here too. And others? We have in-laws. Okay. Yeah, so you can see Tara's got a lot of support.
A lot of support.
Here. But yeah, that's Tara. Tara's dedication and just her care in everything she does is second to none. So we're grateful to have her as a recorder. We're sure that we'll have every I dotted and T crossed. So that's Tara.
Can I quickly echo what Tyler said as well, just about,
Sorry,
are you
go
done?
ahead, Stacy. One other thing Seth just asked, sorry. As far as swearing Tara into the office of a recorder, it has to be done in front of a notary or a judge, or there was one other option, and we don't have any, what was that? Court clerk. A court clerk. Do we have any of those in the room with us tonight?
I'm an Eagle Scout.
Wait, who's a notary? Oh, we don't have.
I think we've got a court jester down that way.
So Tara will take the oath of office tomorrow before a notary public in the morning, and there's a document she'll sign too. So
Great.
Thank you.
That's great.
You know, Tyler, not bad for a millennial falcon.
Yes, thank you.
A millennial falcon. You got it.
I'm losing way control of this meeting real quick here. so-
Mayor, if I can just echo a little bit of what Tyler said about Tara. I've served on the Youth City Council the last couple of years with Tara, and I did not know her prior to that. And I have never met anyone so cheerful and happy. Whenever you see Tara, she is so bubbly and cheerful and kind. And the way she leads the youth, she can just get them pumped up and motivated to do things and serve. And she makes serving the community every month sound so enjoyable. And she's just so great. And then as I got to know her, I came to understand maybe some of the trials that are on her shoulders. You would never know the weight she's under at times, because she never she's just never dim. Her light's always on. And so Tara, thanks for being such a good example, and the best of luck working with us, mainly Mayor. And good thing you only have like 7 more months with him.
Yes. As soon as you get sworn in, we'll tell you what's really expected. Yeah, because Angie didn't tell you.
I will tell you, Tara, and maybe Tyler didn't finish the story about driving the senior vans up to Salt Lake and then not having the money to pay to get out of parking. Have you paid her back, or did she front that out? It's a story he didn't finish. He started that, but he didn't finish that. He didn't bring his wallet.
We
But,
got it.
Terry, you were great. That's the first time I met you too, was youth city council, and that was those were some great days, and then some of the tough days through it were something else too. But you leading some youth through some tough times of losing one of their members and everything else. I just remember how empathetic you were to those youth, and I remember thinking, I am thankful the right person is in the right spot to help these kids as much as you did and just did well. So I'm excited for your new position. You'll do just as well. So
Great. All right, we're excited for her. Okay, let's move on then to, let's go back up to B. Okay, she can speak.
She doesn't have a microphone.
Come on up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. No, I am just, my heart is full, and I'm so grateful. This has been a wonderful journey, and through the whole process, when I first started in Youth City Council, I got to know so many in the community, and I got to serve the community and just see so many good people and so many ways to be of influence, to show these kids how to be leaders, to show them that they can and they do make a contribution to their community. And then it morphed into actually working here, which was wonderful because you got to see the other side of it, the other aspect of it, and then working in HR with the employees. I love working with people. I just really enjoy just showing people how much I care for them and how much I feel people's strength and their love that they have for each other, and I just feed on that, and I love that. And this new position, I'm excited. I am challenged, and I like to be challenged. So I won't make the same mistake once. Did you see in your drawers? Last time I said more chocolate.
Oh, yes.
Is there more chocolate? All right, good. See,
And
we
she
won't make
follows
the same
instructions
mistake
well.
twice. Yeah, I may make mistakes, but not the same one twice. But I am so grateful, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure Kim would like to come up and say a few words, wouldn't you, Kim?
Kim, we would love to hear from you.
No.
Thank you.
I'm still emotional, so we're good. She's a good employee, you guys are getting somebody great.
Yeah. Kim was not very happy. Kimmy wasn't very happy losing you, but she was excited for you. So we're excited. So looking forward to a lot of long nights here at City Council. So that'll be great. All right, let's move up to item B, new business, Quail Valley Development Agreement. And you know what, you guys don't have to stay, because these are boring meetings. But we appreciate you being here. What a support for, and we're excited.
That made it a fun 15 minutes.
Tara's gonna go home too.
Get her out. Get her out when it's early.
Wow, I think we got a new position.
Mayor and council, this next item is for the Quiet Valley Development Agreement. As you recall, you rezoned the property for the Quiet Valley Development to R3 and then the R115 for the adjacent single-family property. The preliminary plat was also approved. And so the next step is this development agreement. The development agreement addresses a number of things. It has the overall approved units, the density for that project. It includes a phasing plan, design guidelines, and details about the amenities. It also addresses utilities. That's a big section of it. And part of that is in a separate agreement called the East Bench Utility Agreement. But there's still some more information in there about utilities. Since it's kind of a remote part of the city, getting utilities there is one of the bigger challenges. There is one error that I should point out to you on page 2, section 2.1.3. It says that home construction will be limited to 67 until a second point of access is provided. That should be 50. Our standards are for 50 units. The good news is that phase 1 includes 2 access points, and phase 2, 3, and 4 as well will have 2 access points as well. So that really isn't an issue, but if you could just correct the text, maybe when you make a motion to say 50 units there, that would be good. Are there any questions about the overall project or what this agreement does? Kiddo.
Right.
Just a couple of things to add what Vaughn said, and Curtis Levitt with D.R. Horton's here with us. You might recognize him as the only one that.
Still here? Still. You weren't out there with pictures with Tara?
What's that?
You didn't go out with pictures with Tara then, okay.
D.R. Horton has been great to work with to get to this point. I really mean that. And I think this agreement, as I understand it, is reflective of the different things that they've talked about doing from the beginning. And that's made working with them now for about a year. Again, like I said, really a pleasure. There are a few details that Curtis and I touched on earlier today relative to some of the exhibits with the agreement that still need a little bit of fine tuning. I would not want at all for you to delay approving the agreement tonight, but would ask that you consider approving it, subject to just having some things fine tuned. I can list what those things are real quick. And Curtis, please let me know if you understood anything differently from what we talked about earlier. And we've had a standing meeting with D.R. Horton every Thursday going back many months now. Thursday morning, we'll go through these in more detail. I think by Thursday afternoon, we'll have them wrapped up and we'll be ready to put a final set of the exhibits together for the agreement. We want to review a couple of things about the phasing plan, just to make sure that's buttoned up tightly. So one is phasing plan. 2, there are some details relative to the side elevations of some of the buildings that they'll be building that we want to tighten up a little bit. We think there's a need to add some language to their fencing standards. So that's the 3rd item. We think there's a need to add some language relative to street trees. That's number 4. And then the last one has to do with this document that D.R. Horton's put together voluntarily for the project. And I'll just let you guys maybe flip through this for the rest of the meeting if you'd like. But they call it the Quiet Valley Community Structure Plan. We think that's probably the best document to use to address the other things that I've raised, so that would become then, I think, appropriately just somehow another exhibit to the agreement to memorialize that going forward. So phasing plan, something to address some site elevation issues, tightening up the fencing standards, street trees, and adding that community structure plan to the other exhibits that we have with the agreement. Those are the last things, and it's been a big undertaking, like I said, so we're really happy to be at this point.
I was just glad the pool and the pickleball courts were not discussed right now. They're staying. No changes there, right? Great amenities.
Not a chance, yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
Good. All right. I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve Quiet Valley Development Agreement, correcting the number of units to be built to 50. And also that there are some minor corrections done with the phasing, site elevation, fencing, street trees, and including the documentation of their document that D.R. Horton has put together for the development. Does that work?
Got a motion by Councilman Argal, a second by Councilman Gordon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Let's get her built. Hey, thank you for hanging in the whole time.
You don't want us to each, I mean, we got time.
All right, let's move to what everybody's been waiting for. Tentative city budget
Adjourn?
2022.
So
no
Could go sideways real fast.
Ewoks?
It could.
And this will be short.
Tentative budget we have.
Oh.
Review it we shall. That's all I got. I can't keep going because Stacy won't take this seriously. All right. This is, without a doubt, the greatest joy that I have putting together a budget. This is like Thanksgiving. This is like Thanksgiving Day. You get all the work done and all the trimmings and everything. It's just like, this is great. None of you guys are even paying attention.
No, I am.
You guys are all just
You
looking
can
at
take
the
that
picture.
down.
I was going to say, last year you compared it more to Christmas, and now it's degraded down to Thanksgiving. But
Oh,
keep going.
No, there's no degradation.
Yeah, Thanksgiving isn't as big of
Oh,
Christmas,
well,
but keep going.
I'm trying to make sure that everybody's favorite holiday gets represented.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
For some people, Thanksgiving is Christmas.
It'll be easier to listen when you compare it to Fiesta Days, but
Okay.
keep going.
All right, well.
Okay.
Fiesta days.
Oh, boy.
All right. So this year's budget is also the largest budget that the city has ever had. There is no doubt, you will see that as you look through the budget documents. I believe Kent has emailed something to you, and we'll get something even more complete emailed out and put on our website tomorrow mid-morning. But Spanish Fork is in the middle of a growth cycle. In our history as a community, we have grown a lot through the years, and there was a cycle specifically, it seems like 2002, that's not true, maybe 2004 to 2008, where we experienced some significant growth. And then there has been a little bit of, certainly a lot of commercial growth that has happened since 2012 and even ongoing even till now. And then residential growth is really starting to take off in many different ways over the last couple of years. Mayor has some sayings, and I won't try to take his words. He can certainly add those in if he wants, but there's really not a whole lot we can do to stop growth. Mayor, maybe I'll just ask you, how do you describe it to different people as you visit?
Growth, you're never going to stop growth. You just got to plan for growth. You got to embrace it. The only way you're going to stop growth is people quit having kids, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think we'd recommend that, right? Being
No.
a father is frankly one of the greatest joys I've ever had, and I wouldn't take that away from anybody.
It even gets better with the grandkids.
Yeah, yeah.
So you plan for it, and it's coming. So if you're planning for it, then works out good.
So the last couple of years, of course, we've talked about a number of capital projects. So in this budget, you're seeing the work of all of those capital projects come. Tara, I think next time you should not fill these drawers at all.
Thank
We started talking about the
Hey,
budget.
you know how many months we went without any? So don't give me that.
14 months.
I think these guys are like Pavlov's dogs. Budget, food.
What do you think? We're listening? We're listening.
So you talked about, during the last couple of months, last year, a number of capital projects. We've bonded for 3 specific areas, right? The sewer treatment plant and a number of capital facilities, capital projects associated with the sewer treatment plant, the largest single bond we've ever done in conjunction with Mapleton. We bonded for water projects, a number of different projects there. And we bonded for the construction of Library Hall. All of those bonds add up to about 120. Yeah, we'll round up maybe $120 million. And those funds have to be spent in the next 4 years. A lot of them will be spent, well, because of the size of the sewer plant, it'll probably be somewhat even over the next 4 years. And so you're going to see really high capital project values, which makes our budget appear huge. And the sum total of this year's budget, I don't know if anybody's looked at any of the numbers that Kent's emailed, but have you?
All of them.
You know what the sum total of the budgets are?
80.
So you remember, I think it was a year ago, maybe it was 2 years ago, Chad, we were talking about keeping the budget under 100 million. This year, we were trying to keep it under 200.
Out of the water. We went out of the water.
$170 million, with more than $80 million being capital projects, right? I mean, it's just a significantly heavy capital project budget. Now, it's important that we understand that few of these projects, frankly, will be completed in a year. Many of these projects are multiple year projects. Library Hall, for example, will span 3 fiscal years, unfortunately. It's in current FY21, it'll be in 22, and it'll be in FY23. Right, and so some of the dollar amounts that we're going to talk about today are not just going to be spent in the next 12 months, but you'll see them, some amounts less than, of course, that total spent this year, and then some spent over the course of the next couple of years. So I wanted to spend a few moments on the capital projects of today. I'll start with the golf course. The golf course is, how old is this golf course, Dale? 35?
Yep.
36 years.
So I was golfing down at the sewer treatment plant down.
So 36, 37 years ago, we started the construction of this course. And frankly, when they built this course, I'm going to read into a little bit here. When they built this course, they didn't really pay attention to the fact that there was a lot of wind. And so it was constructed according to standards in the 1980s, which were somewhat less than we would know today. And the course has, for many, many years, suffered from a challenge, that is that the large rotor sprinklers that all golf courses have, when they run according to traditional cycles, that big nozzle sprays into a gale force wind, and you see 5 feet to the windward side of the sprinkler that it's green, and then it's dry everywhere else. And then on the, I don't know if I'm getting my terms right, leeward side or the downwind side, you know, it's just all green because it's getting all the water. It's extremely inefficient. The valves are breaking, the pipes are breaking, and the system needs to be replaced. This is one of the council's top priorities, as we've been talking over the last couple of years. And you've instructed us to find a way to complete this project. And we're happy to report that we found a way. With this tentative budget, we propose kind of a 3-pronged approach. At the moment, we believe the budget estimate for this is $2.9 million, which is a huge number. But we need to remember always that this is a 170 acre park. It's huge. We don't have a park that big. We don't have any other parks that big. The sports park is half that size, right? And if we were to do this project at the sports park, we could do it over a number of years, and we just shut down this area and then that area and then that area, and we wouldn't really feel it. But because the golf course is we'll call it 175 acre park, it actually covers its operating expenses every year, and then some typically. We don't have any park that covers itself in the operations. So this is actually quite important, because it takes about $1 million to maintain the park, but it also brings in just a little bit more than $1 million in revenue. So it costs the resident today $0 to maintain this park. And typically, in the last 10 years, there's been somewhere between $50,000 to $150,000 revenue above the expenses that could actually be used toward the maintenance of some other park. So we don't want to affect the revenue side of this. So we've come up with a 3-pronged approach to fund this project, and frankly, it's pretty unique, pretty creative. We've talked to most of you about this in our planning stage, but I'll just outline them briefly. The first is, the last 2 fiscal years, the golf course has done very well. about 200,000 towards the bottom line, if you will, in FY '20. And we're estimating right now that will be about 300,000 to the bottom line in FY '21. So in this budget, there is a deficit in, if you will, not really a deficit, Kent's dying over my shoulder. We're pulling from the fund balance $500,000 with this budget to put towards this project. That's part one of the payment. The second is, as you can see on this slide, we estimate this project will save about 41 million gallons of water every year. Is that right, Chris? Yeah. 41 million gallons of water. That's a lot of water. We're hearing right now Governor Cox talk about what our cities going to do. This is what the state's going to do. What are cities going to do? And this is a huge amount of water. How many acre feet? I should have asked you that before. Put you on the spot. Five, six. A lot. So, technically speaking, a lot of acre feet of water. And so the water fund, as they analyze this, they can actually take that 41 million gallons of developed water resources and put that towards something else so that they would have had to spend money to develop for future projects. So there's really a cash value there. And so the water fund has said, this is going to save us a lot of money year after year after year. We believe that there's a savings of about $685,000 that we're very comfortable with saying, we're going to do a water conservation grant. And we actually noticed that in the dividend transfer notice. So every resident got something about that, and they're invited to talk about that if they want to at the public hearing June 1st. But that's a water conservation grant. We estimate, again, saving 41 million gallons of water every year. That's huge, and something that we need to be sure that we trumpet when we're done. 125 acre feet a year. So that's if you take an acre of ground and put 125 feet of water on that, or that's almost 1 acre of water over that entire property. Not quite, right? 170 acres. So it's a lot of water. And then the last thing, where the water fund has some revenue that they have in what we call fund balance or fund reserves, retained earnings, basically in the savings account for the water fund. And today the water fund, because of interest rates, they're receiving about 0.5% interest. And so we propose in this budget that the water fund give a loan to the general fund to do this project, where the general fund pays them a rate we have recently received in some of our bonds of about 1.6%. So kind of a win for the water fund because they'll get interest paid to them 3 times what the rate is today. And frankly, I think that's as good a rate as we ever would get in the PTIF, right? Maybe even slightly better than that. So it's a better interest rate for them anyway. So an internal loan where the golf course would be the one that pays that back, and they would pay that back with their revenues that they get each year. So those are the 3 ways that we propose to do that, and there will probably be some changes that come to some of those numbers, mostly in maybe the loan amount, because when we get the refinement of the price through the bids, as well as we can refine the budget, maybe that number can go down a little bit. But at the moment, that's what we estimate in this proposed budget. I'll probably go into that. This is probably the most in-depth I'll go into, but I wanted to hit that first. Any questions on what we propose there? Comments or concerns on that? We've reviewed this project in this proposal with, of course, the Water Fund, Chris Thompson, Public Works Director, Ryan, the Golf Pro, and Dale and Kent as well. All right.
So we need to clarify that the golf course was
1981.
1981. Telling them it's a 40-year-old system. I want to make sure I wasn't lying.
Yeah. Typically, 40-year-olds are really in good shape.
I got a good water.
Typically, a 40-year-old can run 7 to 8 miles, at least 7/8 of a mile.
7/8 of them.
I can walk the whole golf course.
I wasn't talking about
Carrying
you.
a bag, but then I need Tylenol after.
Back and forth.
So in the parks budget, there are a handful of different capital projects. And these typically are the fun things. We'll talk about these. And there's about $1 million budgeted in this budget for development of the power corridor. This is up in the Legacy Farms area along the Rocky Mountain Power Corridor. We'll call this Power Corridor Trails. And Most of this money actually came from the Legacy Farms development itself. We are proposing to add just a little bit of impact fee, I think $250,000 of impact fees to enhance that as well, but the majority of the funds for this are coming from the Legacy Farms development area. Electric Park, there are many residents, I'm sure, that are watching this at home because we have millions of viewers that live in the area just east of Maple Mountain High School. And there's a triangle-ish polygon-shaped park there that is surrounded on two sides that we will call Electric Park. And that park was pushed off because of the All Abilities Park and the construction of that All Abilities Park, right? When we had that priority shifting, priority changing donation, the Electric Park is what got moved. This budget proposes to begin construction of that, and if Bart has his way, he'll start construction of that, anytime in fiscal year '22. If he has his way, he'd actually like to start a little bit earlier, sometime this fall, doing some things. But we'll see this budgeted in fiscal year fiscal year '22, and then the rest of the park will be completed and expensed in fiscal year '23. So that total price to construct this park is not $1 million. That's how much is budgeted in this year's budget. Right now, if they start sooner, we may shift some of the '23 monies into the '22 budget. But I think right now we're targeting about 2.5-ish, $2.6 million for the construction of that park in total.
How many acres is that one?
It's not 175.
Hmm.
7? 7. Great number. Legacy Farms Park, at the moment, it has a moniker of P7, but this park is currently under construction here, and then this would just reach into a wetlands area, and we will construct that probably in the spring next year, but we'll see how that one goes. But that is also funded with some Legacy Farms dollars as well. There is some funds budgeted in here for the work at the urban forest, an area just west of the sports park along that trail. You kind of maybe know a teardrop section of the trail that runs around here. A lot of people are playing disc golf in this area today. There are some funds that we propose, about $50,000 that come from impact fees, and about $50,000 from impact fees, and about $50,000 that come from RAP revenues to do some parking lot work and some general enhancements in the urban forest. And then this budget also proposes an outdoor gym that would be similar to, but much greater detail to the outdoor equipment that's at the sports park today, kind of in the soccer fields area. This has a number of funding sources, some RAP funds, but mostly county grants, as well as a grant from a national company. And that's proposed in this budget. Library Hall, this is one that we've been talking about for a long time. It's currently under construction. Man, she's a cute kid. Library Hall is bonded for, and we expect to spend probably the majority of the money in the FY22 budget year. But due to some delays in some of the deliveries of steel specifically, the delivery of this building won't happen until sometime late '22 or January of 2023. So we'll see a lot of work happening over the next 2 years on this site immediately south of our city office building here, and look to a grand opening of the Library Hall complex in the spring of 2023. Of course, in this budget, there's about $18 million for that. Next, I think we're done. We have one more general fund item, but we'll jump over to a couple of enterprise funds. This should say Fiber Ring. My apologies. Fiber Ring project in SFCN. Right now, we have a bunch of veins, if you will, we'll call them veins that just run throughout the city to all of our nodes, and they take the routes that they take, but there really isn't a redundant system that provides multiple path connections to all of our nodes. In our water system, in our electric system, we always require interconnectivity. And about 4 or 5 years ago, as we were doing the fiber project, we identified a weakness in that. So Brian and his crews have been identifying that, and this budget proposes to put $1 million toward the construction of that fiber ring. It will be probably a little bit more than that, and it'll take a couple of years to do. But this is a project that will significantly enhance the reliability of an already very reliable system. Some of the outages that we have when say, a power pole has to be moved and there's a fiber trunk line on that, we have to take a node or 2 or 3 out of service for a while to make that switch over, because you can't do some of that work like water where you can put the pipe in and then just switch it all of a sudden. They've got to splice a lot of fibers and such. Having this ring will make it so those outages will be minimized, if not eliminated. Will significantly increase the reliability of an already very reliable system. In the streets fund, there are a number of capital projects, maybe 2 of note. Are 2 intersections near schools, and this budget proposes to fund those in participation with those schools. One being a roundabout on Mill Road near the American Leadership Academy, and another either a roundabout or a traffic signal at Center Street near the high school, 630 West. Nebo School District will participate in that. Let's see. In the electric fund, I have to mention that I think Kelly Peterson might be watching if he made it this far in the meeting. So Kelly, if you made it this far, a shout out to you for being diligent and loving your community. That we certainly appreciate Kelly and his many years of service to the Spanish Fork area. Yeah, he's just watching from home, loves town.
Write him a poem.
You did not write him a poem. Kelly, be careful. Brandon's musing about a poem. There really isn't anything of specific significance here, and I don't mean that like it's all boring stuff, but they have a lot of just general upgrades and enhancements to the system that they're making. So nothing in particular. Maybe I should note a study and some work in the industrial area north of the airport. There's a lot of interest, as Dave has been talking. There's a lot of interest in our north of the airport industrial area. That has long been on the map as a possible place for industrial development to occur, and it is on the map today. We have so much interest in that area, and when companies start looking at locating there, and there's an 80-acre company, they want 80 acres for their project. They usually come with a large water supply demand or a large electricity supply demand. So Jake is proposing to do a study of that area to make sure that we're ready. And when we bring in we've talked about their power demands are in the 20 megawatt range, which is a significant chunk. I think we're about 80 megawatts right now anyways, right? Yeah. So it would add another fourth, it'd be a fourth or a fifth of what we already have. And these companies, these kinds of companies, when they come in, are great for our power system because they are a 24/7 use, and that actually enhances our power rates for everybody because it changes our load factor. So these are good developments in terms of power. They affect positively the rates that we all pay for our electricity. We're almost done. Next, we'll talk about the sewer collection. This is what we bonded for. And frankly, this is one of my favorite aspects of the city. If we want to talk about cool stuff, it's the sewer treatment plant. There is no other facility that we have that can take crap and turn it into almost drinkable water. I mean, that's just really cool. Most other places take good things and turn them into crap. That was a joke. So the sewer treatment plant.
It wasn't as funny as you thought it was.
You're right, it wasn't.
He can say what he wants as long as he does that.
He'll be here all night.
Is that like bless your heart?
Yeah, bless your heart.
You can get away with anything if you do that.
You're
an idiot. Okay, so this is one that we bonded for, right? And we've got sewer, West Interchange's trunk line, as well as 2 lift stations, one in that north industrial area I was talking about, and the Leland area lift station. This is a huge hole, and this picture has not been documented. These are people down in that hole, and they're about 6 feet tall. So you get a sense of how deep that hole is. That's a lift station where sewage will flow, and then it'll be pumped to an elevation where then it can gravity feed. About $10 million in those kinds of projects, and then in this budget, there's about $22 million, I think, budgeted for other kinds of treatment plant-related projects. In total, there's going to be a lot of money spent on that treatment plant over the next 4 years, and this is just the start. Some equipment, pipes, and things like that. Water has about $12.5, $13 million worth of projects. Some of them are bond projects. Some of them are non-bond projects. We'll focus on the bond projects. Some money is budgeted for a 5 million gallon tank. We've got a 2 and 1 million gallon tank up kind of at the north end of our east end of our town on Highway 6, and we'll replace those in total 3 million gallon tanks with one 5 million gallon tank. Our crews have been really proactive there. As those facilities fail, they look to just replace what we had, and then they decided with some of that growth coming on the north end, it's actually pretty cheap to make it a little bit bigger. I mean, it's relatively speaking, right? But to take it from a 3 million to a 4 or 5 million gallon tank, today's the day to do it and take advantage of those economies and yet be able to provide water services to that area. So they're proposing to build a 5 million gallon tank with those bond funds, as well as some work in the industrial areas. Probably one that will be of great interest to all of the East Bench is that East Bench corridor line. The areas around Maple Mountain High School have really low or generally low PI pressure, and this project will enhance that pressure for all of the East Bench. And I think it'll make the whole city kind of on the same par, right? It's really been a missing piece for our water system. So that'll take care of that issue there. And then finishing a lining on a canyon water line, and then some additional pressure zones. And last but not least, you approved a purchase contract a couple of meetings ago, 1 or 2 meetings ago, to purchase some land at the fairgrounds, approximately 6 acres, a little bit more than 6.5 acres, just south of the back parking lot. That will preserve some space around the fairgrounds as well as growth opportunities for the fairgrounds. We are significantly low in parking for the Fiesta Days event. We're significantly low in participant parking for a number of other activities. We need some more stalls in the fairgrounds, and adding the acreage that we added a year ago here and this acreage here will give the city the ability to grow. And there's about $1.6 million budgeted in this fund to purchase that asset of about 6.6 acres. Those are all the capital projects that I have to talk about today. This budget also has a handful of employees, and we'll talk about those. We can probably get into those details as we visit over the next month in those proposals of what positions have been funded and how. Some positions we propose to fund, say, starting July 1. Some we say we propose to start in January, so just essentially half the year. There wasn't enough funds to do those positions all of the year, and so we're proposing, with how we've analyzed things, that we fund them for half a year and then, of course, pick up the rest, fully fund that position the next fiscal year. This budget does also provide for us to continue our employee benefits programs as well as our salary programs, as has been outlined and we've been functioning with for the past decade or so, which is an important element to, I think, the quality of work that we have with our employees. It's probably all I should talk about right now. I feel like my 5 minutes is up.
Yes.
So
that was the Reader's Digest version?
It's $70 million, yeah. Any questions that you have that I can answer?
It's under 200, so we're fine.
Any questions that I can answer, any specific questions about anything that you would like to address here, or things you'd like us to be looking at or thinking about as we study this for the next month?
Thank you for all your time, staff, and all the directors. This is a lot of work, I know. So thank you.
This is Christmas, Thanksgiving, and Fiesta Days all wrapped into one. Happy to do it. I should also, I should give some thanks to our interns. They just started this last week, one yesterday and one last week, and they jumped right in and helped us do a lot of this stuff even right away. So Liz and
We're good.
and Nate, we really appreciate them jumping in and helping us. A lot of this.
Good. I'm sure we'll have a few questions.
Do you have a question, John?
Oh, sorry. No. We'll have a few questions in the next month there as we meet with you.
So, speaking of this project process, today is the tentative budget. You have a process now for the next month where you would study this. And then we have a public hearing about the budget scheduled for June 1st, which is our council meeting in June. First one there. And then you can approve the budget that night, or you can approve it 2 weeks later at the second council meeting in June. So it's now your budget as a council for your review to adjust or change however you feel. And then we'll have that public hearing on the 1st. There are two other elements to the tentative budget, one being the RDA and two being the LBA, which is a new entity. The RDA stands for Redevelopment Agency, and LBA stands for Local Building Authority, which will be the note holder, the owner of the library hall structure. And in a moment when you go to those, Kent, I think, is talking about those. Kent, anything you want to talk about with the tentative budget? Oh, yeah, greatest news of all. So this budget does have just a couple of rate changes, but no tax increases of any kind. We've been, for the last couple of years, we've had just incremental changes to the sewer rate. And there is a small change to the residential stormwater rate. But other than those two rate changes, I don't think we have any other rate changes. And like I said a moment ago, there is no property tax increase proposed with this budget. Oh, thank you, garbage rate. I need to amend that, the garbage rate. There's a tweak there. That is according to plan as well, right? That was the 3-year plan there.
So we need to approve this tentative budget.
We need to approve the tentative budget for FY22.
Okay. I'd entertain a motion to
I'll
approve it.
move we approve the tentative city budget FY 2022.
Second?
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Argal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, let's go to,
Move we adjourn to redevelopment agency.
Second.
got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve. Is there consent items in there? I didn't see any consent items. Are there some inside?
Well, we don't approve them, though. Proud of you.
So I have the budget. I have a paper copy if you'd like one. There'll be a couple of enhancements to it tomorrow, but just in case you want.
Oh,
anybody
I
else
would
want
like one, yeah.
Yeah, why not?
a tree unless you want.
You've already emailed it to us.
I did.
Yeah.
It is emailed to you.
You got it. You got it. We'll
Yeah,
take
we
it.
don't want to make you cry.
But we're on the front cover, so it's important for us to
So-
have it.
We'll be touching it up a little bit. We'll put the page numbers and a couple other things that aren't quite in there yet.
Got my autograph on it.
For the most part, the numbers are all in there. So you are in the RDA right now, and the RDA budgets are inside there, but instead of having you trying to find it in there, I just printed the 2 pages out.
You are good.
The RDA.
He does like candy.
Glasses.
Thanks, Kent.
Okay, over the last couple of years, we have retired several RDA areas. For those at home, the RDA area is, we now are in a city council, but the city council, or RDA, the chairman is the mayor of the RDA. And we still have some funds available in different areas. For example, the windmills was in an RDA for 8 years. It's been retired, but there's still $100,000 plus in that, and this budget plans to spend that money on a connecting trail from Dripping Rock Trail towards Mapleton. at least give us some matching money in to use trail grant money, stuff like that. So it'll be spent out of the windmill. You'll find that one. Corona CRA is still in there, and it has to do with the commercial area and with agreements with the development that we are required to pay back some of the sales tax that we collect back to them for another year or so. And that's the process of the redevelopment agency that does that. There's also funds left in the North Industrial area, anticipating when work done around the airport, when that gets going. We keep thinking it might be this year, but it might be next year. So we keep budgeting that money to be used, but there are $1 million plus money that's available in that area. So it's to bring enhancement to areas of geographic area by capturing property tax increment of those businesses in those different areas. So we captured some of the windmill, and now we're going to use some of that money for that trail. So it looks very similar to last year's as far as this budget. You'll find on that first page the budget, the tan one that says budget FY 2022. And the second page is actually the page that fits in with our city budget, that they have us do a budget outside to adopt the budget for the RDA. But in the end, when we do the audit, the RDA funds are blended into a special revenue fund inside our city financial statements. So I present to you the RDA budget. This one has a total budget on that third, the last column is $1,977,000,000, and you can accept this RDA budget as a tentative budget for the RDA.
Any questions? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I move we approve the tentative RDA budget for fiscal year 2022.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Mendenhall, a second by Councilman Scobes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Entertain a motion to go out of.
Do we have to go back into council, or can I go right to LBA?
Go right to the LBA, just like it is on the agenda.
Motion to adjourn to local building authority.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Argal. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So this, I think it's the second time you've been in the LBA. This is a new entity. It's a special revenue function inside the city budget, but it has you have separate hats now. Now you're not wearing RDA hats or city council hats, you're wearing LBA hats. And we have created this fund this year. It's a new fund. It's called a Special Revenue Fund, very similar to the RDA and also similar to the RAP tax that we have. So we try to earmark those in the special revenue funds to keep track of them coming in and what they get spent on as they go out. So if you can look at this budget, you can see that we're going to, of the 18 million that we have to spend and to build, we're planning to spend about 13 million in this next year on construction, and then the rest, the balance of that bond money will be spent in the following year. Also in this, it shows the revenue stream that's paying for the debt service. So there's constructions going in this account. There's also a debt service payment that's going in of principal and interest paying that bond issue back. And the source of revenue for those are property taxes, which were raised last year and the year before, anticipating that revenue stream, about $800,000 in property tax that our residents are paying are going towards that debt service on the library. And in addition to that, on the finance, the utility office, we're having the utility departments also pay an assessment towards that building of another $400,000 for that, for a total revenue of about 1.3 million, 1.2 million that's coming in, and then that covers the debt service that we'll have on that loan. So this is the LBA as far as the budget. You can accept this as a tentative budget of the LBA.
All right, any questions? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve tentative LBA budget FY 2022.
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Argyle, a second by Councilmember Beck. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
Motion to reconvene back to city council meeting?
Second.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Scobes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we're back in city council. Discussion? Discussion?
Closed session?
Closed session. Yeah, we need to go to.
I move we go to closed session for reasonably imminent litigation and land transaction.
Got a motion by Councilman Gordon, a second by Councilman Mendenhall. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You don't get to say aye. Thank you, in TV land, for being here. And may the force be with you.